In the wrestling world, the people are represented by two separate but unequally important groups. The wrestlers and bookers, who literally do all the hard work, and the fans, who endlessly nitpick and overanalyze everything they do. These are their stories.
Hey, it's Warhorse, and you need to shut your mouth, open your eyes, and clean out your ears, because it's time to listen to the Raw and Order podcast. That's right, they're bringing you the best in all that meaty podcasty goodness in one, what is it, an hour? Two? Who cares? Who gives a shit? You need to listen to it right now, or else Warhorse is gonna, I don't know, roll your ass!
I love that intro. I do. Welcome to Raw and Order, the wrestling booking unit, the only wrestling podcast on the planet that started like 5 minutes late because it was busy talking about other stuff and doing stuff. So I am your host, Detective Mark Smarks, and I am joined, as always, by my partner in crime, fighting District Attorney Vincent Cafe. What's going on, man? How are you?
Oh, what's up, man? I've had kind of a lazy day. Had to take a nap earlier. That was weird.
Lazy Sunday. Woke up in the late after. But yeah, so first week in a while that we don't have a pay-per-view to talk about. So I guess
what? No pay-per-view?
No major pay-per-view at least. I mean, I guess technically there was free the narrative 2 today, or yesterday. I can't remember what it was. I think it was yesterday. That happened. I didn't watch it. Apparently was good, so we have that.
I tried a new Japanese soda today.
Ramune, good stuff.
It's incredibly difficult to open.
Once you know the trick, it's actually not so hard. But if you don't know the trick,
it's still a tough push on the plunger.
If you don't know the trick, the trick is not to push like all at once, constant pressure. The trick is to put it down and pop it really hard, and it pops in. But
pop it.
Yep.
Twist it.
Just
pop it.
Pop it. Just like a what is it?
Pop that. Never mind.
No, there's the little
not that song.
Little bunny foo-foo picking
Little
up the
bunny
field
foo-foo.
mice and popping them on the head. Just pop it on the head.
Okay. We went to totally different types of songs there.
I got a 3-year-old, so I sing the little bunny foo-foo every once in a while. Anyways, but yeah, so we'll get started on doing that. Before we get into all of the wrestle talk, we like to take this time to remind everyone that Raw and Order is part of the Tatnus Co podcast network. So you can head on over using the link in the doobly-doo down there to tatnusco.com. Check out the other shows on the network and let them know we sent you. And come back here. We live stream every Sunday night and Tuesday night at about 10:30. And if you can't make it to live stream, the replays are going to be up, or you can go and download and listen to the podcast as normal. So, but we'd love to have people come to the live stream and interact with us and send us comments and preferably comments that aren't angry towards certain persecuted minorities.
I was like, what, we had that? No, we've had some faux comments, some
yeah. No,
people.
Yeah, I think they were real comments by troll accounts, but yes. But they were, let's just say they seem to support something that rhymes with Otzi, and we don't really want.
It was Shotzi. It was Shotzi.
Yeah, it was Shotzi. It was Tegan Knox and Shotzi. It was Noxie. Shit. We don't like that on our podcast. So if you're coming to our live stream and you get the urge to write something like that, I'm gonna delete it and block you. That's pretty simple there. And
yeah, that's I think we're in resounding agreement.
Yeah. So but we'd love
to not kill anybody at all, let alone commit genocide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, especially I'm gonna be blunt here, especially against people that I'm related to, because I have people in my family from that specific segment. So not
really
not
either of us. You could choose our families in pretty much any. Between the two of us, I think you can get just about every persecuted minority is somehow represented in our family. Now we're both
white as can be. I had to put like filters on my lights so that I show up as a color, because otherwise I'm Casper.
But you are a friendly person.
I am a friendly ghost.
But you're not a ghost, and so.
I mean, we haven't sixth sensed it, so we don't know for certain if people are just seeing dead people.
Anyways. On a regular, I think to myself, I wonder if I podcast with dead people.
Yes.
The sixth podcast.
I just to go back to that Warhorse intro, I really, really, really want to just replace the regular Raw and Order intro with that. That is so much fun. I love Warhorse. So, anywho's.
And because the ball.
Yes, the ball. You love the ball. Wait.
No, I was referring to the soda getting difficult to drink, and you got to make it weird.
Yeah.
Oh wait, if I go this way, there's a stopper. That's brilliant.
Yep. Like I said, it's all about knowing how to drink it and how to open it. Once you know,
I feel like you shouldn't have to like figure out how to drink your soda. It should not be a deductive reasoning setup thing, bobber.
You can bring up points like that, but some people will disagree.
Are you some people? I feel like you're some people.
I may be some people.
So this is a WBU. This is something we haven't done in a while.
Yeah, we haven't done this in a while. So yeah, let's go ahead and kind of get into wrestling crimes of the week. I'm gonna try to stay away from WWE as much as possible because it's way too simple to throw crimes at them all the time, and I'm actually kind of tired of it. But what do you have for the first crime of the week?
Oh, Shasta Daisies! I was not expecting to go first.
Yeah.
You don't have anything?
Oh, I've got crimes. I just always like to put you on the spot. I mean, I'll go. That's fine.
No, I'll go first. I mean, I can just say the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Like, here's the deal. I don't understand the placement of the draft. For 2 years now, maybe 3, but for 2 for sure, we've done a draft on shortly before Survivor Series. And I guess it sort of makes sense if you're trying to create some team camaraderie, except for the fact that right after that, you want them to feud with each other for a year. Mm-hmm. There's no stakes to Survivor Series. The draft is a good way to get stakes to the Survivor Series, at least for the leadership of the individual brands. The authority on both brands right now is the same. So there's not... It doesn't make sense. I mean, yes, there's different networks, but the authority figures are the same. And Adam and should be wrestling. What's her name? Oh my gosh, Sonya Deville. Thank you. Why am I blanking? But that's not what we're doing. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And so. I'm not gonna target the entire draft because I just don't see a reason to do that. But what I am gonna do is say, the draft, like any individual draft picks or anything, number one, it's not over. Number two, you're trying to build a couple stories. I get it. But I don't understand the concept of the draft without any stakes involved. You know what I'm saying? Like, either the entire rosters need to be up for grabs, or you need to tell us who is up for grabs and who isn't, by having the half of the rosters are up for grabs. It's just not well done. It's just not ever. And then its placement is really weird in your crossover pay-per-view, the head-to-head pay-per-view coming up right after, well, not right after, but a month after pay-per-view not to be named. Round pool.
Well, we can say Crown Jewel. I will say I don't count it as a pay-per-view because it fucking nobody cares about it. And
well, it's because they make it up. I mean,
uh-huh.
You have to remember the Saudi Arabian prince that requested this and set all this up actually requested to have the Ultimate Warrior perform
because he doesn't know shit about shit. He
the
doesn't know
year after he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, and he died 2 days after he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. So it doesn't work, man. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, so they do technically release a list of who's eligible for the draft on each day, right?
Who's eligible for the draft on the days, but they don't say who's off limits.
But nobody's off limits. It's
well, they said half the roster is
and they released the list of which half is available on each day. And they say, but here's the deal: they don't stick to their own rules.
Well, I mean, why can a faction be taken? Example being Hurt Row or Hit Row Records.
Yep,
Hit Row. And that was able to go as a full faction, but the New Day can be broken up.
I think the official rules are you can choose to take them as a faction or as an individual. What's dumb is why anyone would choose to take just an individual. Why would you
we saw this when we were drafting on fantasy booking.
Yep.
I mean, we both went, well, if that's how we're going to play this.
Yeah.
Except for when we really didn't want the tag teams to stay together for whatever reason.
Yeah. And that's the deal. Why, if you had a chance to get all of the New Day, would you choose to only get?
Yeah, of those factions, why would you separate the New Day?
Hey, look, we've already got some of the not see comments, and they've already been blocked.
Those will not be seen.
Yes, they're just gone.
Not seen comments. Is that what you said?
Yep, not seen. They're not going to last. As soon as I see them.
On a side note, that person had to be really old to have performed that action.
Yeah, for the action that his username is, that's I mean, bravo for him being able to use a computer
or her.
True, or her, but I'm just saying, just from a standpoint.
Well, I mean, assume that they were in their 20s when that action happened, and the person they did that action to was of age, was famous at the time, then that would make them minimum 100 years old.
Yes, exactly. So bravo for being able to use a computer I guess.
Today. And your mouth 80 years ago.
80 years ago. But it's getting blocked. That's the way it is. Don't even try it anymore. Blocking y'all.
We're just going to make fun of you. That's all we're going to do. We're going to make fun of you.
Yeah.
We're going to troll you back publicly, and that will stay, but your comment won't.
Yes. People will be listening to this and wondering what we're talking about because they will not see your comment.
Yep.
Period.
But they'll know that you're a douche tool.
Yeah. Total douche nozzle. Anyways, so here's the problem with it. Like I say, is they don't follow their own rules. They say these half are available and this half isn't. And if you're not picked by the end of the show, you're a free agent. But then on Talking Smack or Raw Talk afterwards, they then pick a bunch of other people. Well, that's not the rule that you set up, right?
That's true.
The rule is if you're not picked, then you're a free agent. and even then they just play fast and loose with it. Here's my thing is part of the problem, like you're saying, is timing, because it happens a month before, almost always a month before Survivor Series. You know, you suddenly have an entirely new roster on Raw or SmackDown that suddenly you have to pretend they've got this loyalty to their new brand. Why would you have that sort of loyalty? You've only been there a month, you know? And
True.
so what I almost think would be the better way to do it would be to do it after Survivor Series. So
Okay.
now the draft is over, or now the Survivor Series is over, this battle between the brands, and then you can play it up in storyline. Like, you failed us at Survivor Series, so
we're going to put you as available in
Yep.
the draft,
Mhm.
or you know, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I think the draft needs to be treated more like an expansion draft in the NFL. We've seen a few of these in our lifetimes. People who are younger have not seen any of these, but we saw it with Jacksonville and Carolina and Houston, and
Mhm.
so there were times where we saw it. Regardless of whether or not we've seen it, I think that's how it needs to be treated more. Hey, you have to do a franchise player, and you have to do a total number of these players. So you have to do these number of franchise players, and this many total people. I also think that they desperately need an authority figure on each individual product line that can represent the needs or wants of Fox or USA. This doesn't have to be real. It can be I mean, they don't literally have to be on the phone with Fox going, okay, so what's the game plan? How are we going to run our
Right. I mean,
commercials?
it's
all
all-
that stuff.
But that's the deal, is there needs to be some consistency, and there needs to be some of that. And that's why I think after Survivor Series would be a better option for it.
I think also winning the matches, winning the overall Survivor
Mhm.
Series could play into draft positioning.
Or even whether you're safe from the draft or not. You know what I mean?
Yes, both of those things could be an option.
Yeah. Hey, you know, Kofi, you better win. Kofi and Xavier better win that match to stay on Raw. Otherwise, you'll be up for the draft and you might have to go wherever. Right. Those are all things that they could do. There's so many silly things with the draft. I mean, like you said, why would you take Big E and not the rest of the New Day?
Yeah. I
There's
mean,
no reason.
For marketing purposes, if I'm going to take any of the three major factions, we'll just say the Hurt Business, the New Day, and the Bloodline, any one of those three, I'm going to choose the whole thing for marketing purposes, just for merch sales, because I can still sell Bobby Lashley stuff. I can still sell Almighty Bobby Lashley stuff. I'm going to sell more Shelton Benjamin stuff. I'm going to sell more Cedric Alexander stuff. And now I'm going to have a fourth product line in there. I'm going to sell more MVP stuff. And I'm going to have a product line in there for the Hurt Business.
Yeah. And that's the deal but I mean, even more than that, like.
And this isn't to nitpick I just don't understand their setup for the number one. The draft used to be right after WrestleMania, which I thought made sense. This is really, if you look at number one, what is the season of WWE? I thought the WrestleMania was the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they've always basically referred to after WrestleMania as the new season, so that's when the draft should take place. There, that would make a lot of sense.
Correct, and it makes sense for Survivor Series to be the crossover between the two because it's the All-Star game about halfway through the year. If WrestleMania is the end of your season, then the end of the halfway point of the season is Survivor Series, and that's the All-Star game. I like that. I'm okay with that.
But even more than that, like, there has to be stakes for it. Like, you know, if you're picked in the draft, you got to be picked for a reason. Like, fucking, don't get me wrong, I like Drake Maverick, but why was Drake Maverick picked in the draft over everyone else that was available? Like,
it's legit.
And I love Drake Maverick. I wish frankly, I wish he would have gone back to the Indies and gone back to Rockstar Spud a year ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They could also they could do it the way they once did it and pretend that it's a random number generator setup.
Mm-hmm.
And if you did that, then it could random. It's supposed to be random. So, oh man, we missed out on Roman, and now remember the Undertaker being pissed off about going to Raw happened during their random number generator era. So, I don't get it. Maybe we need more definition to what they're trying to achieve, and I think that's really what it is. Like, give us a reason, something that's a reason for it.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to find their list of the they'd released. There we go. WWE releases rules for the draft. And they didn't
the same every time.
Well, yeah, they should also be the same, but they made no mention of NXT in the announcement of the rules. But then obviously NXT was part of the rules. So, why not just say you can pick from any of the, you know what I mean? There we go.
Yes.
Go to CBS.
Yeah.
So, but like I was saying, for Drake Maverick to be picked, he had to be picked over a bunch of people, right? Why would you pick Drake Maverick over some of these other people? I'm trying to find the list.
Unless, as an organization, you were bringing him in to be general manager, which he's played that role before, and it was a good role.
Well, CBS, why would you say, hey, we've got the draft pool here, and then when I click on it, you don't have the pool? Stupid.
Yeah, it just, I don't know. There's a lot of it that doesn't make sense. That's all I'm saying.
WWE.com.
And to over scrutinize it is just to waste our time because we're not going to get answers. We're not going to know what it is. We're not going to find out why what happens, but it is a piece to the puzzle. That's all I got. I feel like we're beating a dead horse when we talk WWE stuff.
Well, yeah, we always are when we talk WWE.
Which is what you said at the beginning.
Which is why I'm just like, I just why, it just doesn't make any sense. The whole thing. And so, like, in the end, just to recap for people, Raw was able to pick up Big E, which we knew because he's currently the WWE champion. They got Bianca Belair. They kept RK Bro there. They picked up Edge. They kept Nikki ASH and Rhea Ripley, who are the current Raw Women's Tag Team Champions. So that made sense. They kept Bearcat Lee. They unfortunately picked up the Mysterios. And then they drafted Austin Theory, which that's a perfect example of why would you not pick the whole way?
Yeah. I just want Austin Theory.
Gargano. Johnny Gargano, Candice LeRae, Indy Hartwell. I mean, I guess Dexter Lumis is now technically part of the way. So why wouldn't you just grab them all? Even if you didn't want them all, right? They cost one pick, you pick them all, right?
You pick them all and then you send them back to development.
Or you just don't fucking use them, whatever. Yeah. SmackDown kept Roman Reigns. They picked up Charlotte Flair.
But again,
which means
why would you pick Roman Reigns without picking the Usos?
Yeah.
In one lump sum.
They picked up Charlotte Flair, so she's going to have to drop the Raw Championship, Women's Championship. They picked up Drew McIntyre, which we kind of knew was going to happen because, you know, he came out and pointed and said, look at me, I'm still a contender, and they need a big baby face on SmackDown to go up against Roman, right? They picked up the New Day, but again, Raw already kept Big E, so I don't know that. They kept Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss, which I guess I didn't even know they'd given Riddick Moss a name. They picked up Hit Row from NXT. They kept Naomi. Why? I don't know, but they did. And then they picked up Jeff Hardy. Also, don't know why, but they did. And then in the supplementary round on social media and Talking Smack, Raw picked up or kept Akira Tozawa for whatever reason. I mean, I like Akira Tozawa, but it's not like you were using him before. You've had him for the last, 2 years on Raw? And all you've had him do is chase the 24/7 championship, so why not let him be on SmackDown? They picked up the Alpha Academy, Chad Gable and Otis, so I guess I'll get to see Chad Gable again. They picked up Apollo Crews and Commander Aziz. They kept Doudrop. They're listing it as keeping Drake Maverick, even though Drake Maverick has spent the last year on NXT, but they're listing him as a Raw superstar prior to this, so whatever. They kept John Morrison. They kept Nia Jax. They kept R-Truth. They kept Reggie. They kept T-Bar. And they picked up Zelina Vega. SmackDown picked Aaliyah, of all people, from NXT, I guess. Picked up Drew Gulak, who apparently was a Raw superstar, not that we knew about it. He's just chasing the 24/7 champion, I guess. They picked up Mace, so T-Bar and Mace have now been split up unceremoniously. They picked up...
How dare they?
They picked up Mansoor and Mustafa Ali as separate picks, even though they're currently a tag team.
So, yeah, why waste the picks?
Yeah. And they kept Tony Storm.
Yeah, I really think that they need to make a rule as to how individuals are traded. So, for example, you can trade tag teams, but you cannot trade full factions. Or you can pick up full factions, but you can't do tag teams. Or everybody's as an individual. Or individuals and tag teams.
Or I mean, here, make it simple. You say, hey, if you want to pick up a tag team, it counts as 2 picks.
Yeah. You want to pick up a faction? You can do it in one fell swoop. But you're also opening the door for them to pick up a whole slew of people without you picking against it.
So it just doesn't make any sense. I know they're trying to do it because they're like, oh, we want to make it feel like real sports wise and all of this stuff. It's never going to really feel like real sports. Not unless you literally say everyone's available from day one, period, and no social media pics. And the simple fact is, like, here's part of the problem is anytime they do the draft, it's like, here's some draft picks. Now here's some wrestling matches. And I get it. It's a wrestling show. We want to watch wrestling matches. But you know what they don't do in the middle of the NBA draft? Play a game.
What?
You know what they don't do in the middle of
but
the
they
NFL
do that in
draft?
football, right? Yeah,
they don't play a game there either, right? No.
What about baseball? They obviously
no.
Yeah.
Nope. No games in the middle of the draft there either. It just
But they practice in between.
Nope. They all show up in suits. They sit around and they have nice meals and they get hats at the end that show what team they got drafted to.
So So it's not the same.
No, it's not the same at all.
Oh. It's almost like it's fake.
It's almost like it's entirely fake. But the thing is, if they really wanted this, they should turn it into a special where they have, instead of it being on SmackDown or on Raw, they have a special night. And it could be in place of a Raw. You have a special Raw draft night, right? And
you can have it on both nights. You can just say this week is the draft.
Well, yeah, but the big reason I say putting it on one night is I don't think they've got enough talent to really do it both nights. But then you do it like a draft where it's people are on the clock and they have to choose. And
that's a good opportunity. I mean, to build a vignette, to have Morrison go, well, once he's done dancing, I'm going to kick his ass.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of things they could do, but instead of having wrestling matches, and I know people will hate me for this idea, but the simple fact is, if you want it to be a draft, make it into a draft. And the one thing they don't do in the real drafts is have matches in between them. Right? You just have it. Have all the superstars show up dressed up all nice. Have them all sitting around. Have the war rooms for each of the teams. Have analysts talk about if I was Raw, I'm on the clock right now. If I was Raw, I'd looking at this pool. It's all about, do I want the best available or do I want the one that fits my needs the most? Right now we're really light on high flyers. So it'd be our women's division. Yeah. So if I were Raw right now, I'd be looking really heavily at that Charlotte Flair or whatever, something like that. Because here's the deal, right? We all know people who will literally sit there and watch all of day 1 and day 2 of the NFL draft. They will watch the whole thing. There's no games in the middle of it. There's no anything but picking draft, and they watch it.
I would suggest the primary reason that this doesn't work is this is an individual sport. So it's less like the NFL or baseball or any of those things where you have multiple separate teams. So there's only 2 separate teams. So you don't really have that team sport. You really do have a lot more individual performance. So it's more like if the PGA or tennis and you had the Masters and the US Open competing and we're just going to use the PGA because it's just easier to remember for me. But the Masters in the U.S. Open, or in tennis, the Wimbledon and the French Open, whatever it may be, and they're like, well, I'm going to use golfers who probably aren't golfing anymore because I don't really watch golf, but I'm going to say Tiger and Phil. So the Masters goes, we want Tiger Woods. We want Tiger Woods for ours. He's got 6 or 7 green jackets or however many green jackets he's won. He's a draw. We want him. And immediately the U.S. Open goes, well, we got to have Phil Mickelson because he's the lefty who competed with Tiger.
Yeah.
And I'm well aware for anybody who's a golf fan that is probably a very outdated reference.
In the end, here's the thing I want to point out. Yes, it is an individual sport, but they want us to pretend it's a team thing. Every year we talk about it. They go into Survivor Series, Raw versus SmackDown, all this. And so here's the way you fix this problem, though. And it's something that I've advocated against before. But you fix it by getting rid of separate titles.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
You fix it by having there be one WWE heavyweight champion or universal champion, if you want to call it that or whatever. And you fix it by having one women's champion and one tag championship. And you could still maybe at that point have both the U.S. title and the IC title. That's fine, I guess, because those weren't really tied to brand per se. But at that point, then you've got the one title that both brand, and so then both brands, then you put on a kayfabe thing where, hey, whichever brand has the champion gets extra funding or first pick at matches at the pay-per-view or premium. You know what I mean? A whole kayfabe thing opens up there where and then you're not just competing to be the champion, but you're also competing to get some sort of advantage for your team, Raw or SmackDown.
See, and I would have tested it would be better. That's an option.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that there's enough of a roster. I think there's enough of a push for having the two larger products. And I think, unfortunately, the way you're speaking of buries the mid card into feeling like a lower card and makes the lower card not be on television. I like the split shows. And I like the split titles. I think you need to pretend all year long, except for that draft or head to head, that it matters. That the others don't exist. I mean, for heaven's sakes, they still try to now. Edge doesn't pretend that the others don't exist, as per his pop on the what used to be the Revival. Now it's
FTR.
Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, that's an option. I think to pretend that the other doesn't exist at all until it's time to draft back and forth. That's what they did with WCW. They didn't pretend. They pretended they didn't exist until Vince said, "I bought my competition."
In the end, I'm a firm believer in the brand split, but I've always said that they need to go farther. At which point, then that's the other way to do it. Do the full brand split.
Yeah, go all the way in on brand split.
Go all the way in, because then that's the other way. Is if you are all the way in and
contracts expire mid-season and go,
well,
oh crap.
Even if you don't have the contracts expire mid-season, you have them all contract, for the year. But if you have them completely separate, no cross fighting,
no crossovers in July,
no crossover, that didn't happen. No, none of that stuff. Completely separate. At that point, then the draft becomes something where SmackDown can be like, we want Roman Reigns or we want Drew McIntyre because he brings something to the table here, and we want him off the other. But right now, they pretend like there's a line between them, but there's not really a line. Anyone can go anywhere whenever they want.
Know what I mean? Brock said it himself.
Yeah.
Paul Heyman made it so I can go anywhere I want.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul Heyman.
Yeah. Big E just came over to Raw and cashed in. So, I guess.
But. And then they said, yeah, we want to keep you. Thanks for coming over and cashing in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, crap.
Yeah. It would have been really funny. I got to be honest. It would have been really funny if Raw would have said, yeah, we're going to go ahead and let you go back to SmackDown. Can you go ahead and just drop that title, though, please?
Well, and we don't know what they're doing with that. I mean, I'm assuming that either Becky's going to be drafted over to Raw or Becky's going to drop the title on Monday to somebody.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be the other part of this crime. There's going to be what I add to it. The draft doesn't actually take effect until the 22nd.
Yeah.
So after Crown Jewel.
Yeah.
What the fuck are they doing it now for? They got 3 weeks before this will do anything.
I would say that we've talked about this before, but I would say breaking up the whole year of wrestling into seasons. We've talked about this numerous times before. Give them a 3-week break or a 2-week break where we recap what's happened during the year. Shortly after you have WrestleMania, and you can even roll through WrestleMania Backlash or Payback or whatever the fudge the name's going to be. I'm going to try and keep us PG tonight. So
I already fucking broke it, so
Okay, I'm gonna try and keep my side PG tonight. Okay,
that's fine. You can fucking do
it. But to break it up into seasons of some type where we have, hey, season. Oh my gosh, let's see here. Raw's been on since '91, so that's 60 seasons of television. If it's only a 2 seasons per year, if you say 4 seasons per year, then Raw's got, 120 seasons of television now. That'll actually be pretty soon. Holy cow. Anyway, moving forward, however many seasons of television, and you just give even if it's just a 1 week break and we recap and we say this has happened. For Fox, it works really well when it comes up during the NBA, or anytime Fox is carrying something on Friday nights that competes. They can just be like, and the SmackDown season ended this week, and so there won't be a SmackDown this Friday. You can allow for that to happen. The other piece to that is if there's closure at the end of some type of season. And if you do 4 seasons a year, there's 4 pay-per-views that are perfect for it. They still can roll over and affect the other pay-per-views. That's absolutely fine. You can still only do 1 draft a year, but have some type of shutdown. I think it's healthy for professional wrestling. I really do. There's anticipation. So as the sport I'm equally as passionate about as I am professional wrestling. And I think Smarks is the same way as college football. I absolutely love college football.
Not so much.
Yours is more
I'm an
professional.
NFL.
Yeah, yours is more.
But I got to be honest. The past couple of years, I've even gotten more or less out of that.
But there's a passionate anticipation of the start of that season. And if your team was good, you would be like, "Yeah, I'm going to watch a Texans game this week." I haven't. Yeah, my team's not been good for years. So
yeah, no. Do you want to guess the score of the Texans game today?
Did it resemble the Nebraska game yesterday?
I think it was pretty close to it, but I can't remember the
Huskers won 56-7 yesterday. I was pretty excited about that. I mean, it was a bunch of smart kids, but
yeah. So it sort of resembled it, except without the 7 and the team I was rooting for lost. It was.
You guys got skunked, huh?
We got skunked 40-0 by the Bills.
I mean, at least it's red, white, and blue for colors for both of them.
The Bills.
Anyway, moving forward, this is not an NFL. This is not an NFL podcast. It's a Pissant podcast. So anyway, no, I think that there would be significant value to creating some of that anticipation that we don't get in professional.
We let Josh Allen put up 250.
Let it go, buddy. Let it go. You're on a wrestling podcast.
No, seriously, I'm looking at this. I don't recognize half of the names on this fucking roster, and they just skunked.
Well, that's because they just bastardized it out a couple years ago.
Yeah, they held our quarterback to 87 total errors. Now, our quarterback's a rookie because there's issues with our starting quarterback.
So anyway, moving forward, I think that would be, and we've talked about that before, having seasons or at least having mandatory break times for individual wrestlers. I mean, Robin's been there week in, week out ever since coming back from.
Well, there was a stretch of time where I worked 270 dates. Yeah, that's called a full-time job. That's what most of us
do. And
do.
You chose to travel for your career.
Yes. I mean, that's what most of us do. Most of us do 270 days a year.
But brother.
I'm not saying wrestling's not tougher on the body than clerking at a Best Buy or something. I get it.
Also, I mean, let's be honest about it. There were indies at that indie show we went to that make more money than us two combined.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, there were some who
did not
eating bologna and ham sandwich. Literally just a roll of bologna because they can't afford the bread part.
Yep.
But
and the thing is, the vast majority independent wrestlers have day jobs.
Yeah.
Right. When you're not signed to one of the majors, there's a very good chance.
Black eye.
Yeah, there's a very good chance that you sell shoes or work at a bank during the week. or something. I mean, I think Sammy Guevara talked on his podcast or his vlog often about just getting whatever job he could, Taco Bell, or McDonald's or whatever, just something that he could work during the week that would allow him to have the weekends off to go wrestle up until he could. So
up until he became the Spanish god, Sammy Guevara.
Sammy Guevara. So we'll move on because instead of talking about the WWE draft anymore, because it's
I tried to cut us off 20 minutes ago, and we still talked. Well,
we still talked about it, and then we went to football, and then we went to. But I'll move on to my crime, which is actually kind of ties into that. Mine's a happy crime. Mine is charging AEW with finally pulling the trigger on Superstar of the Future, Sammy Guevara. I've been saying for months that he is a star. He is legitimately a star in the making, and they finally had, and it was a big thing. And I didn't think they were going to do it. I really didn't. I looked at it and I said, they're gonna end up with Miro beating him. It might be heel tactics. It might be whatever. But
boy, there was a lot of 2 counts in it, though. There was a lot of times.
There were a lot of times when, and that's part of why I loved the match so much, because so many matches get kind of ruined in the wrestling fans' mind because they think they know what's happening. It happens to all of us. I do it. You do it. JLB does it. Every single fan out there does it. They think they know what's going to happen. And often we're right, because if you've been watching wrestling for long enough, you get kind of a sense of things, and you know what's going to happen most of the time. Which is why it's so refreshing when a wrestling match comes along that you didn't see the ending coming. I didn't think they were going to have him beat Miro. They'd booked Miro to be a monster for so long. And 140 days, I think, is what I read. And he'd beat pretty much everyone handily. And they'd been doing good with it. It was exactly the way they needed to book Miro. They needed to book him like this, as just a monster. And so
I do want to put a side note out. There's been 2 that the TNT title has done exactly what it was designed to do. It brought on guys that are future world title contenders that are from outside, and gave us something to be content with them having the title in Miro, or in John Huber, who is Brody Lee. So we got to see those people. We got to see them have a title on them. We got to see that type of stuff. We also got to see 2 stars of the future hold the title and really just boost their careers. I think it's a longer matter of time until Sammy Guevara is on the world title.
Yeah, it's not going to be next year.
I truly believe that it's only a short matter of time before Darby Allin's in yet another world title match. I don't know that Darby will hold it. He may be transitional. There's some believability issues with Darby, but there's also, he went the distance with some really good wrestlers.
Here's the deal: is it for a wrestler like Darby, and in a way, Sammy Guevara, the opponent that he beats to win the world title is where the believability can be beaten. Right. So here's what it comes down to. Right. You put the world title on Jon Moxley. It'd be really hard to believe Darby or Sammy Guevara is going to beat Jon Moxley. Right. You put the title on Kenny Omega. It's really hard for our brains to make that jump that, Sammy Guevara or Darby Allin's going to be able to beat Kenny Omega, right?
Without significant build of their character.
But there is a wrestler named Hangman Page who we all believe is probably the next person who's going to hold the world title. We may be wrong, but that's how we feel, right? He's going to come back. He's going to make another run. He's going to beat Kenny Omega for the title, right? But Darby Allin beating Hangman Page doesn't seem that unbelievable, right? Sammy Guevara beating Hangman Page doesn't seem that out of the realm.
Well, I mean, considering CM Punk's had 3 matches now, 2, 3, 3,
2, I believe.
2. So Hobbs and Darby.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We would not have been surprised to see Darby beat CM Punk.
Yeah.
And in losing, he still got put over by CM Punk.
In fact, I that was one of the ones where I thought he was probably gonna. I thought he was gonna beat Darby just to put Darby over, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, as of right now, yep, 2 matches: Darby Allin, Powerhouse Hobbs.
Now CM Punk's unbeaten, but again, he has said his goal is to wrestle the best young up-and-comers that he hasn't wrestled. So we're not going to see, in all reality, we're not likely to see CM Punk versus Cody because we've seen it in CM Punk's mind. We haven't seen what they would be today, but we've seen it in his mind. We've seen Jericho and Punk, but we haven't seen, Jungle Boy and Punk.
Yeah.
That would be a fun one. Punk can stay unbeaten and continue to put people over.
Well,
Powerhouse Hobbs looks like a machine against him.
That's the important thing that I think a lot of fans lose track of. You can still be put over in a loss, right? Because over is not about wins and losses in wrestling. Over is about fan appreciation, fan support, right?
Yep.
And I've said this before about Adam Cole. It's one of the things he does better than almost anyone. Is as a heel, he understands that his job is to make the face look like a superstar, even if the face is losing.
Yep.
Right. And it's the same thing with this. Like you said, Powerhouse Hobbs looked phenomenal against CM Punk. And Darby Allin, even though he lost in 16 minutes, it still made him look like a superstar.
Yeah.
And that's what CM Punk's there to do.
The big thing about Darby is everybody who's beat Darby has made him look like a superstar because Darby's a superstar. At this juncture, you would be lying to yourself if you thought Darby wasn't a superstar. So, but yes, I get what you're saying.
Stupid. And the same can be said for Bryan Danielson.
I don't know. He hasn't really put anybody over yet.
But
I think he will.
No, but I would say he has put people over, but not with losses. Again, that's what I'm saying is you don't have
Kenny Omega over.
Yeah, you don't have to win the match to be put over, right? Nick Jackson looked like a fucking rock star. And yes, Nick Jackson is a rock star. I'm not saying he's not. But even though he ended up tapping out to Bryan Danielson on Rampage, the match looked so good that you cannot come away from that and not say, man, Nick Jackson's fucking good. Right?
True.
Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson went to a time limit draw. There was no winner on that. But did either of them look bad coming out of that? No. Not at all.
No, and in fact, Kenny Omega put over Bryan Danielson a little bit for me.
Yeah, I mean, well, here's what I was gonna say, and this is what's gonna probably come up in my commendations. But you and I have said before that neither of us have been like huge Bryan Danielson fans.
No.
In the past, and I think most of that comes from the fact that so much of our experience with Bryan Danielson has been in WWE.
It's been a Vince experience.
Yeah, and the WWE Bryan Danielson, or Daniel Bryan, we'll call him to separate. The Daniel Bryan that we saw in WWE is not the same as Bryan Danielson.
That we see now, yes.
That we see now, and that I guess, if we went back and watched the Ring of Honors and stuff before, we'd see a little bit more of this. He's allowed to be a little bit more vicious, even as a face. He's allowed to be a little bit more vicious. There's an important thing. The move that he beat Nick Jackson with on Rampage is the cattle mutilation. He was told specifically by Vince not to use that in WWE because we can't see your face when you do it. And that speaks to how Vince thinks entirely as a television program, not as a wrestling event.
Correct.
Because wrestling's not about whether you can see faces. Wrestling is about mat work and yada, 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 right?
And winning.
And winning. But to Vince McMahon, the show is the important thing. And you got to see the person's face when they do things. Well, now that the proverbial handcuffs are off and Bryan Danielson can wrestle however he wants, he goes and starts pulling out these moves that we never got to see him do in WWE. And we never got to see him do them because we can't see your face. You know, literally, Vince had one of the best wrestlers, arguably by some people, the best wrestler on the planet, and made him not do moves because we need to be able to see your face. And so I think you and I will both come around to being Bryan Danielson fans the more we watch him. And he'll never be our number one. He'll never be your number one, I don't think. Right?
No.
There's so many other things. Like I'm
still a product of the Diesel era. So whether people whether you like me, love me, or hate me, I am a product of. I grew up on big dude wrestling of the Diesel era. I most enjoyed the 95 WWE era, which is their worst year in wrestling. I'm not saying it's not, but I really enjoyed the year of Diesel.
Yeah.
As a kid, today I would not. But
I will put out a little psycho analyzing of this. You were always going to be a bigger guy. And I mean bigger isn't tall, right? You were never going to be short.
No.
And so when you watched wrestling, you identify more with the big guys. Yeah, the big guys. I was never going to be tall. At best, I was going to be average height. And until about 10 years ago, I was considered average height. And then the Bureau of Statistics updated and said, oh, wait, no, the average height for men is now an inch taller than me. So now I'm short. America outgrew me. But so for a person like me, it's easier to look up to and identify with the shorter wrestlers, the Bryan Danielsons, the Adam Coles,
and when you're appealing to younger people, that's what here's why HBK beating Diesel was an important facet back then. And I only talk about back then to give us a perspective for today, why some people don't mark out for the best work rate people. Because Miro, I mark out for, and is a phenomenal work rate guy. Miro is 6'2", 6'3", so he's slightly shorter than I am, if you count the big swoopty up here. He's slightly shorter than I am, and large. And he's got great work rate. It's not high flyer, but it's work rate. So I do mark out for that guy. You marked out, I'm assuming, when you were younger, for a little bit of Rey Mysterio. In fact, I've heard you talk that you really liked him when you were younger.
He actually wasn't my favorite, but
Dean Malenko was, though.
Dean Malenko was up there.
And I like Dean Malenko because of the cold calculus. If we were talking WWE, you were probably more of a Hitman or a HBK. And I will say HBK was the person I was the biggest fan of. But there's a level of charisma, and he got the girls. And when you're a teenage boy, the guy that gets the girls is.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it before. Like the match that got me hooked on wrestling. Like I watched wrestling a little here and there, but the one that got me hooked was the 60-minute Iron Man, HBK versus Bret Hart, and it was Bret Hart in that.
And for me, it was HBK. He didn't tap. The first screw job or the third screw job.
But like so many of them here, you know, I can back and I can look. Like even Chris Jericho was one of my favorites. 5'11", right? Shorter guy. Still taller than average, but still
Mhm.
shorter in terms of wrestling. Dean Malenko, we mentioned. Juventud Guerrera, loved him. Hoovy Juice, I was down with that. And that's what I think. I think I identify with a Bryan Danielson or a Adam Cole a little bit more because they are more like my people height.
Yeah. And this is why I absolutely love Kenny Omega and have from the first time I watched a Kenny Omega match, who I was told to watch by one Officer Marks back when you were an officer before you were a detective.
Yes. And like I said, I'm still a Kenny Omega fan, but he's only 6 foot even. So even in the grand scheme of wrestling, he's short compared to a lot of the others, right? But it also plays into why I'm so vehement that I do not want Adam Scherr, aka Braun Strowman, in AEW. Don't want him. There's rumors that he's in negotiations with AEW and Impact.
He's in negotiations
with both of them. I don't really want him in Impact either, but of the two, I'd rather him in Impact.
Well, and if the other news that came out this weekend is true, we may very well see a Wyatt family.
I think the Wyatt family is more of a. I think Wyatt's negotiating with both sides just in general, but I just don't think
I don't
that
see them putting
Impact
him and Braun together. I think that's a horrible idea.
I think, but you and I have both said if Bray, Wyndham Rotunda, whatever name he ends up wrestling under. I mean, it won't be Bray, but that's beside the point. Anyways, it comes to AEW.
Could be. I mean, they only own Bray Wyatt. They don't own just Bray.
He might be able to do that. I would bet he goes by something else altogether. But anyways, regardless,
it's a completely different gimmick.
I don't want him involved with. I don't want him leading. I don't want him anywhere connected to the Dark Order.
No.
Number one, Dark Order is a face group now. There's no arguing with that.
Yes.
I will not be taking questions.
Number two, Dan the Dad should be the future owner.
Dan the Dad for the Dark Order.
The Dark Order.
Hashtag, if you're listening to this, go start that on Twitter. Hashtag Dan the Dad
Dan
for
the
Dark
Dad,
Order.
Dark Order. Dark Order the Dad.
Because that's what I want to see. There's two things I want for my birthday, which is coming up. Dan the Dad leading the Dark Order and Warhorse in AEW. That's all. That's what I want.
This year.
Make it so. This year, yes.
Before the end of this month.
Yep. Make it so.
Okay. Well, I'm not William Riker, so
yeah.
You can't look at me and say
you are not my number one.
Or I'm sure as hell not number two either.
No. Number two. But anyways,
imagine your moniker being Poop.
Number two. There's a reason they never called him number two on that show. But anyways, I'm so happy with Sammy Guevara being put over. I think the key to these mid-card titles working is for them always to be used as a stepping stone into the main event, not necessarily into the main title picture, because there's a difference, right? Darby Allin is 100% in the main event, but he is not in the title picture.
No.
Right?
No.
And that's the thing, is these are stepping stones. We know for a fact, it's gone reported multiple times, that Brody Lee was on track for a run with the world title, right?
Yep.
That the plan was for him to hold the TNT title for a while and then eventually drop it and then go after the world title, right? I would expect that Miro is going to be elevated and start going after some of the bigger names now.
Sure.
I would expect to see him go after the world title. Even though heel versus heel is a little bit weird, but
it won't have to be, because it could be
Hangman. It could be
Hangman. It could be Darby.
Darby.
I beat you for the last title. I mean, what a wonderful storyline pre-built, Darby beats Hangman with a face versus face match, which we've seen way more of that in AEW. Thank God, heel versus heel and face versus face.
But
I
so
don't get it still. What the heck? I got a mosquito that's just flying around my office here.
But so, finally putting that on Sammy Guevara, let him run with it. Now, I don't know if you got to see the updated title, right? Because, of course, Miro had the Bulgarian title with the green strap or the white strap with green. Yeah, white strap with green on the title. Anyways, Bulgarian flag colors and everything. Immediately after getting it, Sammy Guevara had his title, and it is blinged the fuck out. I don't know if you've seen it yet,
Ballin'.
but
No,
it
I
is.
Here, let's screen share it.
Yeah, let me find it.
Okay.
Let's see if I find it faster. Images. That's him holding up the Miro title. There's a picture with him in front of it, but you can't see it now. So now I gotta find it here. This is, I'm sure, a whole lot of fun for the listeners and viewers, I guess. Did you find it already?
No. Oh, I didn't know I was looking for it.
No, I thought you were like, no, it's fine. I can keep looking for it. I just had to keep adjusting my. Let's try doing this.
Images.
I'm doing it this way. That's the old one. That's the old one. That's the Miro one.
See it behind it. No, that's got green on it.
Yeah. You really have to see the new version of it, like a full picture of it, and so.
I guess I want the Miro one.
Let's try doing this. Here, let's go to Sportster. Let's see if this has it on it. Well, this is close as I'm gonna find in short notice here.
The one with it behind him in the background.
No, this is a better one than that, but share screen. Chrome.
See?
But let's see if I can zoom in on this though.
Yeah.
But there you can see it better. But the big thing is you see that the background on the previous version, that background was just polished metal, and now it's got thousands of gemstones there. And then the entire border now is gemstones that didn't used to be. And then the TNT title now is filled with gemstones as well. So it is really blinged out compared to the way it used to be. But that does make it that they are 100% now rolling with this idea that each new title holder is going to have a new version of the belt ever since Brody Lee's. They retired the Brody Lee version, and then Darby Allin had the black version with this, but still polished background, not blinged out, which fits Darby Allin a little bit better, to be perfectly honest. And then Miro had the Bulgarian version. Now Sammy Guevara has this version. And then we'll roll on and
So yes, congratulations to Sammy Guevara.
But I'm so excited to see it. Now that picture also shows off there. That was -1 Ty Conti and Alan Angels from the Dark Order, as well as Sammy Guevara and Fuego. The fact that they have them all posing together here is further to my evidence that the Dark Order is now face. They're a face team now. Just leave them face.
And every one of those people, except for -1, has been a heel at some point.
Yeah. But just let them be face. And if you bring in Bray, whatever you want to call him, you make him totally separate. You have him do his own thing. It's great. Whatever.
Yeah, he can be George Wilson.
Yep. Doesn't matter. I don't care. He can do whatever he wants. He can start up his own cult. That's fine. I don't care. He just needs to keep him away from the Dark Order because he doesn't serve the purpose that people think he serves by having him in the Dark Order.
No. And again, you want to hear just another WWE guy. That's a really good way to end up with people saying just another WWE guy. Right now, we've got gold on people who've never been in WWE everywhere in AEW.
Yep, every AEW champion right now is a homegrown talent, you could call it.
I mean, one of them was grown overseas.
Yeah, well, and I say homegrown in the fact that none of them
are in WWE.
The concept of a homegrown talent is really what's the word I'm looking for? It's really a misnomer because there outside of WWE, there's no such thing as a homegrown talent.
No, because they get exposure. They get exposure at this guy's gym.
Yeah, they start off at a gym and then they go to the indies and then
this indie company and then maybe they do 6 shows with Zella Pro, but another 7 shows with
Warrior Wrestling and
another 7 with NOI Lucha in California or whatever it may be. And so they're just bringing more and more people in, and they get that's what you want. You don't want to learn under just one guy. Nowadays, there's
really for instance, we mentioned before Warhorse. I love Warhorse. I can come here and I can look at his career, and as of right now, in 2021, he has wrestled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 20 different promotions just in this year alone, right? Last year, he did 26. 27. The year before that, he did 31. Different promotions, right? Wow. And in each of those matches, he did multiple. In each of those promotions, he did multiple matches. 5 for Glory Pro, 3 for Cape Championship, 3 for St. Louis Anarchy.
You know what else he did in every one of those promotions? He rolled some ass.
He did. And so in the end, he wrestles in all of those. And of course, I'm sure he's got a day job, right? Because it looks like in 2020, in the last, 8 years of his career, right? The most number of matches he's wrestled in a year has been 73. That was 2019. He did 73 matches, right? That's probably not enough for a person to make ends meet as a full-time professional wrestler.
You want to do the math on it. Let's just pretend that it's $1,000 a match, and we know it ain't.
No.
We know it isn't because we saw the number of people in Zella Pro.
Yep.
But let's pretend it's $1,000 a match. That's $73,000 a year. The average household income in the United States right now is 90. Now that's combined 2 income households, but it's 90.
Yeah. It also that $73,000 a year
has to pay for
without paying for travel. So take a third of that for travel and housing during that time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And suddenly you realize,
Wait. Didn't we say something about maybe go watch your indie guys?
Yes.
Watch indie autographs.
Yes.
Buy a shirt, buy a picture.
Yep.
You
Exactly.
can also buy a shirt from us and pay for their autographs.
Yes, like that, right back there. Can't point to it. Thumb back to it. That there.
Yeah.
There. And so support your local wrestling, but that's the deal. Is in his career, and I'm not going to take the time to actually count specifically. Let's see. Does this have that ability to do that at all? Nope, it doesn't. He's probably wrestled for somewhere around 50 different promotions, all told. And so there's no one of those promotions that he can say and can claim he's homegrown.
Yeah. Yeah, he got something from JJ Garrett.
Mhm.
I guarantee in that match in Kearney, Nebraska, he learned something from JJ Garrett.
Mm-hmm. And so in the end, he
Or
goes to
from
AEW.
talking to Colt Cabana the night he was gonna wrestle JJ Garrett.
Yeah, but that's the in the end. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that Warhorse signs with AEW. People would say he's an AEW homegrown talent, but he's not. He's an indie talent who finally got his break and signed. WWE currently is the only promotion in America that can have homegrown talent. Because they're the only ones that have a whole facility, a whole thing for training. And they're the only ones who think, hey, it's a good idea to just go find bodybuilders and train them to wrestle.
Yeah.
And everywhere else is like, go train to wrestle at a wrestling academy and then get out on the thing. And if you're good enough, we'll sign you. So that's why I say, they talk about homegrown wrestlers here and there, but in the end, it's just wrestlers who started with, and that's what I always want to say. I don't care if a wrestler spent time in WWE. Did they start with WWE? Or did they start on the indies and then spend some time in WWE?
Yeah.
Because Colt Cabana spent some time in WWE.
Very short amount of time.
Yes. A very short amount of time.
Technically, Matt and Nick Jackson spent some time in WWE.
They were only ever there as like day jobbers.
Yeah.
But Colt Cabana was actually under contract for a short period of time. Let me see what year it was for the sake of arguments here. Because it was only for a short period of time, and I think it was only technically in NXT.
Good old boom boom.
What year was it?
Also, invest the money for Colt Cabana to frog splash your friend.
Yes. It was only going to be $35, but for whatever reason, we chose not to. I would have taken it for $35. I'm saying that.
I was doing the math in my head. Those shirts that we have, that may be my most expensive non-shoe apparel.
When you add all the
signatures we paid
signatures onto it, yeah, it very most likely is mine. Man,
I think I have a
Colt
couple.
Cabana has wrestled in so many places; it's hard to find the WWE logo in the midst of all the other ones. There it is. 2008. He wrestled under contract, but he wrestled a total of 4 matches in 2008.
And then they released it.
He was on SmackDown, and he wrestled against the Brian Kendrick and lost. And then he was on SmackDown a week later, and he was in the Championship Scramble. And he lost to the Brian Kendrick again. It also had Armando Estrada, Kurt Hawkins, Funaki, Jimmy Wang Yang, Ryan Braddock, Super
Jimmy
Crazy.
Wang Yang. wonder what he's doing these days.
Vladimir Kozlov and Zack Ryder in that. Then he was in a 2-on-1 handicap match a couple weeks later. Again, lost 2-on-1. He was part of the 2, lost to Vladimir Kozlov. And then a week later, he wrestled the Great Khali and lost. And fun piece of math here. So that's 6, 7, 28. Less than 9 minutes of total wrestling time in 4 matches.
Jeez, oh Pete.
And did you know what Colt Cabana's name was in WWE?
No.
Scotty Goldman. And he in his stand-up comedy, he says, which is just one step short of Jewy McJewface. He does not have good things to say about Vince McMahon's.
Yeah, you know, those two may rekindle their friendship just under the hatred of Vince McMahon.
Yeah, maybe.
Who cares about the litigation?
But that's the deal is, and that's why I say I don't care if you spent some time in WWE. It's about whether you got your start in WWE that matters, right? Because if you got your start in WWE, chances are you spent almost your entire career in WWE. You probably started off in WWE. So a perfect example, and someone who is actually really excelling now on thing, but that Zack Ryder, now Matt Cardona, right? He started in 2004 at the New York Wrestling Connection, but then in 2005 he got signed to WWE and was basically there ever since until he
was a WWE product.
So he's a WWE product. He's about as close as you can get to a
Matt Hardy's also in that category. He went somewhere else, but
yeah. Alexa Bliss is a perfect example. Alexa Bliss wasn't even a wrestler before she got her start in WWE. She went to a tryout.
Now, did it turn out better? I mean, would she do great on the indie circuit now? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. There's just some people that are WWE through and through.
Yeah.
And truly, a lot of those guys, they did some indie circuit stuff. The Miz did some indie circuit stuff, but mostly Tough Enough.
Let's see. It's fun. You go to Alexa Bliss. Yeah, she has not worked for a single other promotion other than WWE.
Correct.
Check your math on The Miz. Let's see. The Miz career.
I don't know if he's done any televised or show matches.
He did 9 matches in 2003 for Ultimate Pro Wrestling.
Yeah.
And then 6 the next in 2004, and then got signed to WWE. So he worked for one other promotion before signing. He
very Matt Cardona-esque.
Yeah, he did spend some time in Deep South, which was a WWE feeder product. Pro Wrestling Alliance and Florida Championship Wrestling, which are, I think, all WWE seed ones. Take some time here, and I'm going to look up John Cena.
He may have just been OVW and WWE.
Let's find out here. What's this first one? Show me. Ultimate Pro Wrestling. Was that the same one The Miz was at?
Yeah.
That must be another feeder, because 99 in Ultimate Pro Wrestling, 2000 he gets signed to WWE. While there, then he spent some time in Ohio Valley. 6 matches for NWA, which must have been during their partnership through Cornette. Heartland Wrestling Association, All Pro Wrestling, and Ultimate Pro Wrestling, and then OVW, and that's about it. Anyways, so we got off on a weird tangent on this thing. There's no such thing as homegrown talent in anything other than WWE. Everyone on AEW, everyone on Impact Wrestling, everyone on Ring of Honor, everyone in any of the promotions in America got their start on the indie circuits or in WWE.
That says something for the product. I truly want to emphasize to people that there is something to be said for the product in having exposure to multiple coaches, not kayfabe coaches, not just Arn Anderson standing behind Cody, but genuine coaches. People, whether, if we go back to the 90s, learning under Killer Kowalski, and then later on learning under, the Von Erichs and whatever it may be, having learning under Kurt or Stu Hart. There's something to be said for exposure to multiple philosophies, multiple ideas. Not to bring up another homegrown WWE, but Ahmed Johnson, who I listened to a wonderful Mark Henry podcast with Stone Cold, where he talked about Ahmed ruining his career because he thought he was more over than the guy who's widely recognized as the first Black NWA champion in Farouk. He was called Farouk at the time. I know it's Ron Simmons, but in Farouk, and so he thought, I'm more over than him. I'm going to kick him in the kidneys. I'm gonna throw a potato at his kidney and put him on the shelf for 9 months. Needless to say, Farouk buried his career by putting Ahmed Johnson through the stretcher, man, like in the ring. So,
but anyways, there's no, like I said, there's no such thing as homegrown talent in anywhere other than WWE right now. Now, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, in fact, actually, let's say 25 years ago, there was a different homegrown talent. WCW had the power plant. They had homegrown talent. But since then, there isn't anyone. Even in AEW, where Cody Rhodes runs the Nightmare Factory, Dustin Rhodes runs Rhodes Wrestling Academy. None of those are direct feeder grounds into AEW. They have not shown to be as
it's an opportunity to be exposed, but you're also only learning there. And I think what we've seen from Tony Khan and his EVPs is they want you to have exposure to multiple educators. They want you to have multiple philosophies in your mind. They want you to learn from the guys who multiple talking styles, because otherwise everybody's LA Knight trying to be The Rock.
Yeah, but like I'm sitting here, I'm looking at the official Cage Match Nightmare Factory roster, all-time roster, right? Because Nightmare Factory has put out 4, I want to say, specials, we'll call them Nightmare Factory showcases, which are actually really fun to watch on YouTube. I highly recommend you to check them out. But keep in mind when you watch these, most of these people wrestling in these showcases, this is their first wrestling match. Before this, it was all training. This is their first chance to show off in front of a crowd. And so they are very green, most of them. Like you go here, 51 total in the all-time roster on Cage Match. Only one of them appeared in more than one of their shows. That's Dean Alexander, who I believe went off and was on a couple episodes of AEW Dark.
Feeder. It's a feeder, obviously. Feeder.
But yeah, he's been on a few episodes of AEW Dark, but mostly it's been, indies and stuff like that. But other than that, other than Dean Alexander, I look down here and I don't recognize any of these other names from even appearing on. Oh, there's Julia Hart. That's the first one. Feeder. It's a feeder. Julia Hart is a homegrown talent for AEW.
First one.
She's the only one.
It's
I mean,
yeah.
I guess technically, what's her name in the Dark Order?
Tony.
No,
No.
Anna Jay. She
Not
was
Tony?
she was a Nightmare Factory one, and now she's in it. But really, the vast majority of them go off and wrestle on the indies, and then eventually make it to AEW, and they get a tryout on AEW Dark or Dark Elevation. And if they do well enough, or they impress the right people, or whatever, they get called back for another one. And like Fuego is a really good example.
Winless in AEW. Fuego.
He's got one now. Thank you very much.
Sorry.
But he is the master of the tornado DDT, you know.
It is,
but
it is Miro's weakness.
But up until he started appearing on AEW Dark last year, he was exclusively indies. He was all over the place. He wrestled 40 matches in 2019. You know, just on the indies, going all over the place, hitting up. It looks like he appeared on Impact one time, or what's this? Riot Wrestling Alliance. AAW. I'm hoping I can find like Juggalo Pro Wrestling or some shit like that on here. That would be fun. Anyways, but that's the deal. And he pressed enough on Dark, coming in and wrestling those matches, 16 matches on Dark in 2020, and then 33 matches so far this year, most of them on Dark in 2021, and eventually got his shot and got a contract, and now he's but some people would call him a homegrown talent, but he's not a homegrown AEW talent. He wrestled, you know, hundreds of matches before coming to, almost 200 matches before coming to AEW.
Really is a testament to some people coming to their own at different paces.
Mm-hmm. He actually even wrestled one match, I believe, in WWE. Yep.
Under the name Bob the Mask Builder.
Nope, KJ Orso, which I do believe. Let's see. It doesn't even say. I don't know if that's his real name or what, but that was the name he wrestled under there. One match. He got beat by Eric Rowan in 25 seconds. Yep.
Claw.
Fucking claw.
Fucking claw. At least Great Khali used both hands.
Mm-hmm. But anyways, so you mentioned something, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on after our weird rant that went on and on about all sorts of shit. We're gonna move on to commendations and misdemeanors. I'm gonna put them all together because this one potentially is both a commendation and a misdemeanor, in the fact that and I'm using misdemeanor in a more literal sense in that standpoint. Fucking Arn Anderson saying one of the best promos of the week, but flat out saying he would murk someone if they tried to carjack him on TV. Do you see that promo?
Mm-hmm.
It was after Cody Rhodes got done with his match. It was a tag match. Cody and what's his name?
Oh yeah, what's his name?
The Nightmare Fact. I'm gonna have to do this here. I'm blanking on the name. It was a tag team match. Cody Rhodes and
GT Marshall.
No, they've kind of moved past that. Lee Johnson, that's the name.
Okay, yeah.
Versus Dante Martin and Matt Sydal. And in the match, Cody Rhodes started to kind of showboat a bit. Now, I want to point out when he showed up for this match, he came out in full like Superman meets Homelander sort of gear and got booed the fuck out of that crowd. And I don't know if he expected it or not, but the crowd was not behind him at all. But he against Dante Martin, who speaking of future stars, Dante Martin is on that list. Dante Martin's a fucking superstar somewhere down the road. But he's also only like 20 years old right now. He's the youngest currently contracted AEW wrestler, if I'm correct. Anyways, flying all over the place on that. Cody starts to get cocky and everything. Lee Johnson literally walks over, grabs Cody by the belt, pulls him over to the corner so that Lee can grab the tag rope and tag himself in so that they can get them, and then ends up winning the match, right? And then Cody gets up and starts to deliver this promo, starts to go into his fiery promo against Malachi Black, and Arn Anderson interrupts him and says, "No, we need to talk, here. You know what the difference between you and me is? The difference is if we were both getting carjacked, right? We were getting carjacked. You would be like, oh, geez, I'm sorry. Here, take the car. Take it. Just don't hurt me. If I was getting carjacked, I'd pull my Glock out and I'd splatter his brains across the pavement." Yes, that is exactly what Arn Anderson said. And at the time he's doing it, he's holding his hand like a gun to Cody's head. And then he says, "I don't coach losers," and walks out.
What?
And Lee Johnson follows him. Kind of like a chided puppy dog. Like, I don't know if I should, but I'm scared to not follow him. So, and leaves Cody in the ring alone. Now, I don't know if they're intending on turning Cody heel, but this is how you turn Cody heel, right? The fans already hate him for whatever reason, right? I don't get the hatred for Cody. I do get the hatred for Cody coming out with Brandy. Brandy doesn't need to be coming out with Cody. I'm fine with her not being there. But anyways, and I get it. Some people I get, they feel Cody's kind of overexposed and he's done it. There's the, I think, unearned concept that Cody always tries to put himself over instead of putting over the new people, right? Because I want to point out Malachi Black has beat him twice. He lost to the Nightmare Factory before finally getting a win in the end. He went to no contest with QT Marshall. He had all those things where like Scorpio Sky defeated him in the number one contenders match. Jade Cargill and Shaq defeated him in Red Velvet. He had those Darby Allin ones where Darby Allin won the TNT title from him. I think, but I also think he knows that sometimes you can put a wrestler over. Like I said before, you can put a wrestler over even if they don't win, right? Even the matches that Darby Allin lost to Cody elevated Darby Allin, right? Even the matches that Anthony Ogogo lost to Cody Rhodes elevated Anthony Ogogo. Right?
Sure.
And so all of this, but I guess I don't understand the hatred, but I kind of get it, I don't follow it. So but the crowd was 100% against him. This is how you turn him heel, right? And I know he doesn't want to be heel, he said before, but fucking just be heel, embrace it, right? Malachi Black is gonna get cheered regardless of how you try to do this. So let him be heel. Let him take this and come back vicious and all that stuff. Whatever. But my point is, fucking misdemeanor and commendation. It was a fucking great promo by Arn Anderson. We knew could deliver fire promos from his entire career. But also it really sounded like he just confessed to fucking murking people. You know what I mean? Like literally says, I would pull out my Glock and I would splatter his brains. Or maybe he said blood, splatter his head.
Body parts.
Yeah.
Existence.
So which is why
you have to play the public domain version of it.
Well, I'm just trying to find the if I can find a what's the word I'm looking for? Transcription of it. He apparently already has started to do merchandise, like saying "Armed Anderson."
That's supposed to be a joke, Bobby.
He also has now a T-shirt that says "Arn," but the R is a pistol. And underneath it says "Spilling brains on the concrete since 1982."
That's terrifying.
It really is terrifying. It 100% is.
But
and he's supposed to be terrifying. He's Arn fucking Anderson.
There's something to be said for that. To say, I don't coach losers, and if you're gonna be too busy showboating, I already had to partner with a showboat who held us down or held us back.
Here's the exact quote. A man jerks your door open and says, "Out of the car. I'm taking your car. You can take it. Just don't hurt me." You know what I do? I pull out the Glock. I put it to his forehead and I spill his brains all over the concrete. I'm Arn Anderson and all that implies, and I'll be damned if I'm going to coach a loser.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's both a commendation and a misdemeanor. I mean, you do have a right to defend your own property. However, I don't know if spilling someone's brains over the pavement is included in that. There are certain other requirements before you're allowed to do that.
The threat of death.
And so maybe I guess I'm just saying, talk to a lawyer before you confess to it on national TV. Maybe.
Since 1982, how many unsolved crimes?
Yeah.
We need Robert Stack up in this bitch to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. That's it. What's his name? The America's Most Wanted guy, John.
Yeah. Is it Gresham? I don't remember. It doesn't matter.
Anyways,
all right. So I do have one. And I started the show with beating a dead horse. I'm going to finish the show with beating a dead horse. The impact from, we had more Extreme Rules matches last week than we had in Extreme Rules.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to throw a misdemeanor out there. Fucking pay attention to what your pay-per-view is.
Yep.
If it's Hell in a Cell and you only have one Hell in a Cell match, it's not Hell in a Cell. That's a Hell in a Cell match. That's you pigeonholing a match to fit the pay-per-view so that you can make sure you have one.
Mm-hmm.
If it's Extreme Rules and you don't make all the matches Extreme Rules, and we listed dozens of them, we spent the prior Tuesday making up random ones. You did that. Some of them were terrible, some of them were good, but you did that.
Yeah, but they all would have been extremer, more extreme, more extremer.
We're going with extremer because it's WWE.
Yeah. They all would have been extremer than what we got. Yes.
And then on top of it, the one match that you have that's Extreme Rules falls apart because of a faulty ring. and you don't address it.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not addressing it in the end. Because there's fan cam footage. I don't know if you saw the fan cam footage. Of one of the cameramen cutting the rope, right?
To make the
ropes fall apart. Like, so the red light, Finn Balor's up on top of the ropes, getting ready to do the coup de grace, and a cameraman gets up across the way, and so out of frame from where it is, and you don't, like, because it's red light and dark, you don't really see, but you see him he's got the camera here, and you see him do something down here, and then the ropes collapse, and he steps down and away, and you see something that looks like it could be a knife or maybe hedge clippers or something like that, you know what I mean, pruning shears to cut the rope with in there. So we're pretty certain that that's how it happened. I mean, because it all lined up exactly. So fucking turn it into a storyline, right? Yeah. Have it be that was like, I mean, you easily, yeah, it should say you paid the dude, or we're fucking film a vignette even that shows Jey Uso walking backstage and taking off a cameraman's hat and putting down a camera, or whatever, right? Yeah. Turn it into a storyline. Because the fact that you didn't explain it, we're now just supposed to believe what God made the ring collapse.
Yeah, I really thought that we were going to go this. I thought Roman was going to release a vignette, very Andrade El Idolo. I really thought, okay, well then that's obviously where they're going, and Roman's going to be pissed off. You think I can't win this match by myself? Because somebody helped him win.
Yeah.
You think I can't beat Finn Balor? Finn Balor? Just all sorts of. I don't care if he's got makeup on or not.
Talk about practice.
Yeah, just he could have cut that promo probably better than El Idolo, mostly because his first language is English. But I really thought that's and they don't do anything about it. Nothing. Like, well, we're moved on. The ring broke. Sorry. What?
Yeah. That's my thing. It's just not even acknowledging it in any way, shape, or form. He wants us to acknowledge him. They need to acknowledge this. That's part of the problem.
And I know I went off on I don't understand this. This is another one. You have stories built. It's the number one issue WWE has above all else, above changing the storylines, above all else. It's not finishing what you have. Finish something, anything.
Well, I mean, here's the deal. Like, a lot of the people have come and said, well, how would you have done it? You got to protect Finn Balor. I wouldn't have booked the match in the first place. If you have a match,
that wouldn't have been the Demon.
Yeah. If you have a match where your worry is, how do I protect both sides? Then that tells me that you shouldn't have that match.
It tells me you don't know how to book a Cody Rhodes versus Darby Allin type match, or a Darby Allin versus CM Punk, both of which the series as a whole, Darby Allin lost.
Yeah.
In the last match, he beat Cody, but 3 matches prior, he had a tie and 2 losses, and then he beat Cody.
But like I said,
with CM Punk, he lost to CM Punk and was over. It tells me you don't know how to protect a wrestler who's as talented as Finn Balor without having him win.
Yeah.
Or having to lose because of a freak incident.
Yeah. No. And my point still being is if you are worried about protecting both wrestlers, then don't do the match. It's as simple as that, right?
Don't do professional wrestling.
Right. Well,
somebody's got to lose.
Well, yeah, somebody's gonna lose, but if you're worried about doing it, don't book those 2 people together. Roman Reigns could have gone up against almost anyone, and he's a good enough wrestler. You put him against Cesaro again. You don't have to worry about protecting Cesaro. Cesaro can lose, and people will still fucking love him because he's phenomenal.
You were just buying time until Brock was available.
So do whatever you want, but if you're worried, we can't have this person lose cleanly because that won't protect him, then don't fucking book that match. Just don't do it. You booked yourself into this corner and now you have this mess. I hear some people comparing it to two other matches that one have happened recently and one of them not too long ago. The first one that I hear people comparing it to is, well, it's like the ending of the exploding barbed wire, exploding death match. And I go, no, it's not, because here's the deal.
That match
One-
ended with somebody losing.
Yeah, A, that match ended with someone losing, but B, that match ended with a legitimate mistake, a legitimate botch, right? The fireworks did not go off the way that they were planned, right? That is different than booking the ending. If it had come out that they had always booked the ending of the exploding barbed wire death match to be a fizzle of fireworks, then criticism of it would be warranted, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is, it was simply a mistake. It was a mistake that they have to fix, and they had to book around and all that stuff. But it was a mistake. The ending of the Finn Balor Demon versus Roman Reigns match was booked that way. That was a booking decision. That's the difference there.
Yes.
I will give leeway to mistakes any day of the week, because all of us make mistakes, right? I made a mistake this week at my real job, right?
On
Cost
either
me
of those,
$15.
we've said, both of us, on either of those, if you give us a reason that it happened, which AEW did do on their botch, and WWE did not do on their intentional botch,
Yeah,
we're okay with it.
I refuse to call it a botch.
Kenny Omega said, well, I mean, I set up the fireworks wrong.
Yeah. They came up with the storyline in the end, but in the end, it doesn't even, to me, matter about them coming up with a storyline, because, again, I will always give leeway to mistakes, because mistakes happen. Like I said, I made a mistake at my real life job this week. It cost me $15 in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And the mistake was simply I didn't notice something until it was too late, and I had to fix it, and $15 was the way to fix it, right? I will always give leeway to mistakes, because mistakes are how you learn. Mistakes are how you get better at things, right?
Sure.
But I will not give leeway to purposefully bad booking. Purposefully bad booking, because that's what this was. And I'm not going to give it leeway. The other match that people have tried to compare it to and say, well, why is it this bad versus, and the other one isn't, is the 30-minute time limit draw between Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega. They're like, well, see, there they were protecting both wrestlers. No, they weren't. No, they fucking weren't.
No,
they were setting up a bigger storyline.
That means your world champion can't win over somebody.
Yeah. They were setting up a bigger storyline. And that played out this week, right? Bryan Danielson says, I want another match. I want to, neither of us got a victory there. I want there to be a finish to this. I want there to be one hand raised. And if I have to go through all of the members of your team, I will. And then they had a match, Bryan Danielson versus Nick Jackson on Rampage. And it was a great match. And it's going to lead to, I would assume, next week, a Matt Jackson match. Or maybe Bryan Danielson versus one of the Good Brothers. Or maybe they'll do a tag match, Bryan Danielson and somebody versus the Good Brothers or the Young Bucks or something. You know what I mean? But it's going to build up to eventually, and I would bet it's going to be at Full Gear, a match. There must be a winner match.
Yep.
Where either Kenny Omega or Bryan Danielson will win, right? There will be a winner, and they
will
book
there
themselves
be
this
a
way.
Brandon Cutler match?
If there is, it better be short.
I loved the promo. We got the Elite people, and we got a couple of our friends, Brandon and.
Well, like Brandon tried to take the mic and say something, and they said, "No, you don't get to talk." And then they gave it to Michael Nakazawa.
Brandon and Mike.
And he said, "I don't have anything to say." And then he gave the mic away. But that's why this is different, right? they didn't book that to go to a 30-minute time limit draw because they felt like they had to protect both sides. They booked it to go to a 30-minute time limit draw because they have a bigger storyline planned, right? And the thing is,
And they've done their time limit draws that way.
Yeah,
the
they've
Cody
done it before.
versus Darby one
Mhm.
was a storyline.
Yep. And in the end, I would have given WWE credit if they would have had the Fiend, not the Fiend, but the Demon versus Roman Reigns go to a 30-minute draw, right? I don't have a problem with draws as long as they fit the storyline. In this case, if you want to protect both wrestlers and you don't want either one to lose, that makes sense, but you have to have a larger storyline behind it. Now they went to a 30-minute draw. Now we've got to have a bigger match at Crown Jewel or whatever. Well, they're not going to do that. They're going to have Brock at Crown Jewel, so that's not storyline. But that's
so anyway. No, I mean the frustration is finish something. Just finish something.
Well, yeah. Here's the deal: if you're not gonna make the Extreme Rules part be part of multiple matches, and more specifically, if you want that match with the Demon versus Roman Reigns to end that way, don't make an Extreme Rules match. Make one of the other 5 matches, the 6 matches of the night Extreme Rules. Heck, make all of the other ones and make that one be the only non-Extreme Rules match.
Yeah, make that a non-Extreme Rules because it just makes sense to. We have to have rules for these guys, or they'll rip each other's heads off.
Yep.
Okay. Well, we have to have a basic match here, or greatest wrestling match ever.
Yeah. But like I said, if you had if they had a bigger storyline, the problem is we know they don't have a bigger storyline planned for this. We know that Demon's not going to come out in a week and say, Roman Reigns, you didn't beat me fair and square, blah 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 blah, because that's not the plan. I mean, I hate to say I was.
How many times have they done a draw because Brock Lesnar got involved?
Yeah,
there it is.
Yep. Oh, but you can't do it if it's an Extreme Rules match. So what you do?
Both of them are unable to compete because Brock annihilated everyone.
Yes, a double count out, a double, no one could,
neither of them could
answer the 10 count. Yeah.
Yep.
That's fine. Those are storylines, but in the end,
I would have enjoyed that, but it was better than what we got.
Better than what they got. But in the end, I still come back to just don't book this match, right? How many other people do you have on the SmackDown roster that you could have put against Roman Reigns that wouldn't have made you feel like, oh, I gotta have it end in this weird way to protect both sides?
The bottom line is we have a guy who's put on good matches with Roman Reigns, who recently was trying to get an opportunity at a title, did not get that title, and that opportunity was used on Raw by Big E. And so why not have Happy Corbin? Why not book something where it doesn't hurt Happy Corbin because he's so happy because he's already got the money. It's fine that he lost. No big deal.
I wouldn't have had a problem. Frankly, I wouldn't have had a problem
with that match in 2 years. I'm okay with that.
I wouldn't have had a problem with King Nakamura saying, I'm the Intercontinental title holder.
And King of the Ring winner.
Yeah. And the King of the Ring. Well,
how have I not gotten
sort of winner? Yeah.
How have I not gotten a title shot?
Yeah. Give me that shot.
New King of the Ring coming up. That's exciting. That's a commendation.
Yep. And a Queen of the Ring.
They'll waste that.
Yeah. Well, if I'm correct, the finals are supposed to be at Crown Jewel.
Well, I mean, Crown.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. You'll have to tell me how it is.
No, I won't. You won't want to know anything about it. You'll just be like, blood money.
Well, yeah, but you'll still have to tell me it was a good match. I'll be like, okay, who won? Is it going
to be on a Thursday again?
Who's the Queen of the Ring? When is Crown Jewel?
How mad are you going to be if Brock wins the title at Crown Jewel? You were taking the title off of Roman anyways.
Thursday, October 21st.
Yay, a Thursday.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
What time does that put it at for here?
2 o'clock in the afternoon.
No, 11 o'clock a.m. for us here. Noon Eastern.
Fun times.
Yeah.
Suppose that's better than them holding it on the Sundays that they were holding it on. I mean, I understand they avoid Fridays like the plague in Saudi Arabia, as they should. It's the holy day in Saudi Arabia for that day of the week. But
well, I mean, ultimately, that's the dilemma that you run into with an international audience, right? Or more specifically, a national audience and an international show, right?
yes,
The problem they run into anytime, like there's reports that Royal Rumble next year is going to be in the UK, right?
In 2023?
No, 2022.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. That's what I was hearing.
Boy, that's tough.
Yeah.
That makes it 9 a.m.
Yeah, it's going to be, early in the day for us. And we're going to be like, hey, great. Now, as long as they put it on a Sunday, it wouldn't be horrible. But the problem that they're going to run into with that is like real sports that happen during the day.
Well, the fortunate part for Royal Rumble is it actually happens on the week between the end of the NFL playoffs and the Super Bowl. So they're usually safe there.
Well, except for that's the Pro Bowl day, which Pro Bowls aren't huge and all of that stuff. I get it, but it's an all day sort of event, sort of a thing. And if you're doing the Royal Rumble during the day because it's overseas, now you do have that.
Nobody watches.
Oh no, so it looks like St. Louis is officially the host of it 2022. So maybe it was 2023 that they were talking about.
They can do that. I mean,
something like that.
You do run into any non-Judeo-Christian countries are going to have a different week set up. It's not Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday,
it's
Friday,
SummerSlam. SummerSlam that they're wanting to do at potentially Wembley Stadium.
An anniversary. That's pretty cool, I suppose. That happened. Yeah, that'd be the 30-year anniversary of Brett and Bulldog. 92. So yeah, that would make sense. That's okay, I suppose.
That actually is probably better though, because it's prior to the NFL season starting.
And it's during baseball season. It's during
season.
the missable parts of baseball season.
Yeah. But it also, there's not quite as much of an overlap between hardcore baseball fans and wrestling fans, I think.
Yeah. I mean, unless they're Sting fans, because he carries a baseball bat.
Yeah. But there was something else I wanted to do. This is kind of a commendation. This is really revisiting an older I can't remember if it was a misdemeanor or a commendation. I think it was a misdemeanor. A few months ago, well, we'll go back a little bit farther. More than a few months ago, Leo Rush retired. And then a few months ago, you on one of them, I think it was a misdemeanor because he was announced to be at a New Japan or Major League Wrestling pay-per-view or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. And you gave him a misdemeanor for that, and I cut in and said, well, in fairness, he did say when he announced his retirement that he would continue to fulfill the dates he'd already agreed to. So it could be that this was something he agreed to before he retired.
Okay.
And you said, okay, yeah, that's fair and all that stuff. But now we can go back to that crime and we can officially give him that crime of unretiring, because it was announced this week that he is now All Elite again. So he is unretired now.
What?
So
So he retired long enough to get out from underneath his non-compete. Well, he was released.
he was released. He was signed to AEW. He was announced, signed to AEW, wrestled 1 or 2 matches, and then retired, and had to like, there was a big deal that Tony Khan released him from his contract for it. So yeah, he was part of the Casino Battle Royal in May at
That's right. Yep.
Double or Nothing.
He retired. Now he's back.
And then he retired because reportedly because of injuries and all that stuff. But he wrestled in June, he wrestled in July, he wrestled in August. I think it was August that you made the thing about it. And then he continued to wrestle. Like, he retired, and there has not been a month since he retired that he did not wrestle matches.
What?
And so, in fairness, let's just say he still had agreements with New Japan and with MCW to do some events.
Could this be a kayfabe storyline where he's the guy who retires all the time? He's Batista quitting and then coming back and quitting and then coming back.
I don't know. I don't see it, but either way, the crime is now the misdemeanor, or maybe it's
upheld.
Gets up to a felony now, because it's upheld. It no longer is this well, maybe this was a previously arranged date. No.
Yeah.
Even if all of the New Japan things were previously arranged, even if all the MCW things were prearranged, because it looks like he did 2 MCWs, he did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 episodes of New Japan Strong, and then New Japan Resurgence. Even if all of those were previously arranged before he retired, right? The new announcement that now he's back and going to be in AEW and all that stuff means he's unretired, and now the crime stands. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm happy to see him back, and I hope he's healthy, and because he is remarkably gifted in the ring. Absolutely. I would have loved to have seen. He's so fast and agile. It's crazy.
He'll put on great matches with Guevara or Hangman or Darby. Or
it looks like only twice was he in a match with Kushida. Once it was a battle royal, and once it was a 6-man tag where he was on the same team as Kushida. How much would you have loved to have seen a Kushida versus Lio Rush match? How fire would that have been?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm excited, but I also don't want to have this be a routine.
Yeah. So here,
and I said the same thing about Kylie Ray.
Yeah, Leo. If you feel the need to retire again, think really, really hard about it, and then make it a final retirement. Make it real.
Or make it stick for at least a year.
Yeah. Because I don't want you to be the Terry Funk that has 1,000 retirement matches. I would get tired of that with you. I get tired of a Terry Funk.
Here's another commendation.
Okay.
We don't have. I've skimmed articles. I haven't read the articles, so I still don't know if 100% it's been released what AEW's new title is. But the fact that they're releasing a new title, I'm pretty excited about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As I skimmed, it looked like it's a mid-card women's.
That's what it's speculated to be, a mid-card women's. I would I would have liked it. I'm hoping it's a women's tag title. Just because they have been starting to build up women's tag teams. They've got Ty J with Ty Conti and Anna Jay.
MJ.
They've got Penelope Ford and the Bunny. I think they're going to put Diamante and Kira Hogan together. It would make sense because they're a real life couple, so why not? And so they've got enough women. They've actually got a multitude of women that they could put in women's tags that would then help them develop a women's division a little bit more without focusing entirely on singles matches, right? Because tag matches are a really great way to develop lots of women, lots of people in a short amount of time.
You know,
right?
the other piece to that is I've missed for a very long time having an emphasis on a tag division. Yes, I've had it for 2 years with AEW on the men, but as a whole, there's just domestically United States wrestling, domestically televised United States wrestling has not had an emphasis on tag wrestling at all. The best example being we actually have a quote that we can say anytime we talk about a tag team in WWE, and that's, we're going to have ourselves a tag match, brother. Player. And so it would be nice. Now, it may very well still end up being the trios.
Maybe the trios, or maybe
a
TNT title for the women, a mid-card title.
Yeah. I hope it's not a trios. I would be okay with either of the two in the women's division. I really would. I think that says something to one of the things we see in professional wrestling is, as a whole, it is still very misogynistic. Justifiably, it's a violent thing for women as a whole. Don't sit around and argue in favor of Die Hard being a Christmas movie. Just in general, as a whole, they don't. I mean, it is, just so everybody knows. Die Hard's a Christmas movie.
I mean, it's not, but
it is.
No, I mean, it takes place at Christmas, but that doesn't make it a Christmas movie.
It's a Christmas movie.
No.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. What part of the spirit of Christmas is in Die Hard?
Saving people? That's
not the spirit of Christmas.
So anyway, moving forward, that was a lot of fun. Thank you.
We'll talk more about that later.
After the podcast. Okay. So you froze. Okay, there you are.
I'm not frozen for me.
So anyway, after all of it's said and done, I would like to see a promotion have the same number of titles for the women's division as they have for the men's division.
Yes.
That would be nice.
Sure would be nice.
Yep. Sure would. Yep.
Sure would.
Yep. So head that direction. That's all I'm saying. Just don't do the trios until you have at least 3 women's titles. You can, and if you wanted to skip and have one for men that you don't have for women, get all 3 of the women's titles set up: the world champion, the mid-card champion, and the tag champion, and then add the trios and don't have a women's trios. That's fine.
Yeah. And I mean, here's the deal. There is going to be a point that we would have to have a discussion as to how many titles is too many titles for AEW. And that would be based on how many hours of TV they have on the regular.
Yeah. I think seven's the maximum. 6 to 7 is the maximum for any organization.
And so
you could go to 8, but that's it.
Yeah. I would say 6 would be the maximum. A world title, a mid-card title, and a tag title. I wouldn't be opposed to them, instead of doing a trios title, just implementing a rule that the tag titles could be defended either trios or, you know what I mean? It would be complex and they'd have to jump through some stuff, and I'm really spitballing it. Rather than implementing a full trios title, just do something like that would allow a trio to win it and then a duo beat them, beat the odds and beat them, and so on and so forth. I don't know. Rather than implementing a full trios belt, but I'm not behind AEW, and frankly, they don't need my input. They're doing good themselves. One thing, it's kind of a misdemeanor I want to go out on, and then we'll probably wrap things up.
I apologize. I did miss that last rant, so I don't have a clue what you said. I had somebody who's decided that he can't sleep tonight.
It's okay. I mostly was just spitballing on, instead of doing a trios title, do some sort of stipulation where the regular tag titles could be defended trios.
Ooh, I like that idea too.
So you weren't introducing a new tag title. You were just saying, if
the two teams agree, we can do trios.
Yes, we can do it as trios. And then if a trio wins it, then they can treat it like trio, or they can treat it like Freebird rules or whatever. No,
you can't have a trio go up against the two team.
I think they could even implement a situation where they could do that, because here's the deal: is if you do trios 3-on-2, you're still only tagging one person in at a time.
Yeah, that's true.
And so in the end, you still could probably do that. Anyways, but that's beside the point. I was gonna do one final misdemeanor, and now I blanked on what I was gonna do. This final little misdemeanor before we wrap things up for the day is the wrestling news has been abuzz with headlines like Tony Khan has taken the EVP's power away from them. Tony Khan took their booking power away. The EVPs have lost their booking power. I really don't think they ever really had booking power.
No.
I think from day one, Tony Khan was pretty clear that no one has like veto power on anything. Not the EVPs, not that all of the buck stopped with him in the end. Now he always took advice from the EVPs and took advice from any of the wrestlers, and did put some power in some of their hands. Like Kenny Omega was partially in charge of the women's division, and so on and so forth. But I'm not like privy to behind the scenes stuff. I'm here in central Nebraska. I'm not central Nebraska, eastern Nebraska now. I'm not talking to Tony Khan or whatever, but my understanding from day one always was that Tony Khan was the main decision maker for everything. Sure. And that for the most part, Cody and the Bucks and Kenny Omega,
I think they understood scripting and
were EVP in name only, really, or in more specifically EVP in storyline. Let's call it that, right? What better way to set this up by saying it's all elite and look at our EVPs or all this? But as far as I from day one remember reading, the buck stopped with Tony, and he took advice from stuff. On top of it, like Kenny Omega obviously was struggling with the women's division. There's no argument with the fact that the women's division was the weaker division in AEW for a long time, and still arguably is, right?
Sure.
And also Kenny Omega's passion is not really women's wrestling, right? He likes it and all that stuff, but you know what he really likes? Video games. And guess what they're developing right now? Video games. And guess what he's been put on the team and maybe partially in charge of? Helping the video game, right? So of course he's going to pull back from the women's division if he's doing that, right? Cody has so many things on his plate, right? Roads to the top and having a baby, and all of this stuff, and the Go Big show, all of these other things. Of course he's not going to be heavily involved in day-to-day booking anymore because he's got other shit to do.
A big piece of that is what is an EVP? Is an EVP the guy who just handles this stuff? No, it's the president's foot soldiers. Mm-hmm. It's so I am the right hand man of there are two right-hand man of the managers in my real life organization, and I'm one of them. I'm the one who has to put out the fires, who has to handle those types of things. Very little of what I do in my real profession is I'm just going to do it without any being told what I'm supposed to do. There's a lot of that I'm trusted with because of my experience in my real profession. But as a whole, a large mass of it is don't let this become a problem for the president.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I mean, in
and
the
so
end,
that is what they're doing in certain, you know, hey, handle the TNT contract and they want to do a reality show with one of our wrestlers and they think it'd be good to have it be you. Well, yeah, you booked a whole stinking show and then now magically you're number 2 on in the chain of command for a wrestling company. Like, okay, that makes sense. I don't know.
I mean, in the end, like I said, I think more of it was storyline than anything. What better way to sell All Elite Wrestling than saying, "Look at our EVPs." And then they did really well. You send them out to indie shows, and you say, "Hey, this Darby Allin that's wrestling at this indie show, right? Go to that indie show. I've made arrangements for them to allow you, to come in there and offer him a contract, right? Hey, there's this guy Sammy Guevara wrestling down in Texas. Go to that show and offer him a contract. Hey, we need some referees, right? Go offer Bryce Remsburg a contract. Go offer Aubrey Edwards or anyways, do that. And they did that. They showed up and it was promotional and all that stuff. But did we really think that Tony Khan, who has multiple degrees, if I'm correct, I'm gonna look up this because I'm pretty sure he's got multiple degrees, but he's also runs multiple businesses, right? Let's see. He graduated from the University of Laboratory High School and then University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign in 2007 with a Bachelor's of Science degree in finance. He runs as co-owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. He is the co-owner of Fulham FC football team, and then the primary owner of All Elite Wrestling, right? He also has a company that he's chairman and owner, True Media Networks. That's an engineering firm specializing in sports analytics, right? So he's got multiple things. Do you really, really think, step back and ask yourself, do you really think that he was going to truly put in actual positions of leadership in a wrestling company
the business
Matt and Nick Jackson, who has no real business training or thing, Cody Rhodes, who has basically no business experience outside of selling his own t-shirts, stuff like that. Kenny Omega, who, I mean, one of the world's best wrestlers, but has no real experience. I mean, did you really think these were the people that he was going to make his legitimate executive vice presidents to make all of the business decisions? No. There's a team of people at AEW, I'm betting, that are...
There's talent relations. There's this... Yeah. And yet, they very well could be, hey... We want you heavily involved in talent relations. We want you involved in booking. But at the end of the day, the person who sets up the plan to get from point A to point B is Tony Khan. And he says, this is our overarching plan. This is what I want to paint. This is what we're going to paint, the picture we're going to paint. And if he's painting the Mona Lisa, and he says, You know, Omega, I think you can figure out that smile.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't get the smile, but I want the Mona Lisa. That Omega paints the smile, but doesn't paint the whole picture. Because Omega can't paint good eyeballs or whatever. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, but like, you know, he didn't go to Matt and Nick Jackson and say, "Hey, become our graphic designer, right?
No.
Design us a logo, right?" He didn't say, "Hey, Kenny Omega, you're EVP, so you know, help put together the security for our stuff."
Yeah. He doesn't look at Cody and say, "Cody, what do you suppose we ought to pay your wife?"
Yeah, Cody. Hey, Cody, come up with merchandising contracts. You know, talk to different suppliers about, you know, who can supply hats for us or shit like that.
Cody, we've got a pandemic. I need you to book a place for us to have wrestling promotions here in Jacksonville.
Yeah. Hey, Nick Jackson, I think you need to find us a photographer. You'll be in charge of marketing, right? No, of course he went out and hired people to do that. Hey, Cody, why don't you direct the show? Go sit in the
Really?
or in the truck, in the studio truck.
Yeah, he's definitely not doing that.
Call
Have
that shit.
Have you listened to that audio from when they did the open? That's fantastic.
Get ready one. Get ready one. And go one. Get ready five.
Eight.
Ready five.
Eight. Five.
Ready
go
five.
10. No, stop.
Go 10.
Stay at 5.
No.
Stay at 5. Stay at 5. Now 10. Yeah, that is fantastic. Mm-hmm. That gives you an idea of what really goes.
So yeah, I mean, you look here. Corporate staff. Chad Glenn is director of finance. Well, that name doesn't sound like Cody Rhodes or the Young Bucks or Kenny Omega. Chris Harrington, vice president of business strategy. Well, that's not one of their names either. Kevin Sullivan, not the Kevin Sullivan, different Kevin Sullivan, vice president of post-production. Legal coordinator, Margaret Stalvey, head of licensing and marketing.
Wait, Brandon Cutler's not his attorney?
Nope. Legal coordinator, Margaret Stalvey, Mark Kaplan, head of licensing and merchandising. Vice president of business operations, Nick Sobich. Head of global programming and partnerships, Shane Emerson. The only name on here, the only name out of all of these names here that in the corporate staff that has a tie to the elite is Dana Massey, is the chief marketing officer and the chief merchandising officer. You know who Dana Massey is? That's one of the Young Bucks' wife. I think it's Matt's wife, if I'm correct.
Okay.
But, and here's why that's important to say, that's Matt's wife. It's not Matt, right? Matt's wife has been the person behind the scenes in his entire career designing their merch and putting together their merch stores and ordering their supplies and all of that stuff. So she is actually very well suited for a marketing position at a company because that's what she has been doing. But she's been doing it behind the scenes so much that she doesn't even have a Wikipedia page for her name. You know? Mm-hmm. Let's see if I can find any more about her. Dana Massey.
So was this article that you read, these articles that you read, is that more of a kayfabe thing? Do you think that's rolling to kayfabe? You guys are taking over and I don't really like that, so.
No, I really think it's just, I think that's just them sensationalizing. The news has come out. And it came out through some interviews where I think like Brian Cage in one of his interviews said, everything comes down to Tony. He said, he does it all. I think he could benefit from having some extra input, but he does it all.
And that's okay.
Yeah. And in the end, and I think he was saying it as, I think Tony does a great job. I think he could use a break and maybe delegate some of that power away so that he's not, tied to it himself. But that's but I think they read into that and they're like, holy crap, he's saying that the Young Bucks don't have any power anymore. He's saying that Cody has no power. And so all of the headlines came out and were like, Tony Khan has taken all the power away from them. Tony Khan says the buck stops here now and all this stuff. And I think it's just sensationalizing. I don't think it has anything to do with storyline. I don't think. Now they may turn it into something. They'd be brilliant if they did. Have Cody come out next week and say, well, I guess you guys all heard that Tony Khan took away my power. Or vice versa, turn it into storyline where Cody Rhodes comes out next week and basically says, I'm now the authority figure. You said I don't have any power anymore. I'll show you how much power I have. And does the heel turn that way and becomes a heel?
By the way, I have a match with Kenny Omega.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Whatever, they could turn it into a storyline, but as far as I can tell from these articles, it was not storyline at all. It was just, I guess I was the only one who from day one said they're probably not, like, they probably don't have real power in this, because it would be dumb for them for Tony Khan to have put too much real power. What was the problem that a lot of people said plagued WCW? The wrestlers had too much power.
Wrestlers in real jobs.
Yeah.
Wrestlers
had too much power. Yeah.
Talk about the promos. Talk about how to get from here to here, and that's it. Yeah.
Kevin Nash is the booker, and he booked himself to win. That's when problems happen. Anyways, I just think it was sensationalizing headlines, and I just say, I mean, I guess if you didn't see this coming, where were you? But we've jibba-jabbered for 2.5 hours on this thing, a little bit longer than we normally do. And I think you'd like to go to bed, and I'd like to finish editing this and go to bed as well. So we will go ahead and start to wrap things up for this podcast. Do make sure to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. All of the links are going to be in the doobly-doos for all of the places that you can listen to it, watch it, all of that stuff, social media, all on there. Tatnus Co. is all on there, so you can do that. Our merch store is going to be down there, launching new designs all the time. Shirts like this shirt, where you can scan my boob. Over here.
Scanmyboob.com.
Or that shirt right back there, just like the shirt he held up, or this hat. We don't have any plain white shirts.
But we do soon have one that just says Sport Indie Wrestling in some way, shape, or form.
I'm working on it. I really want to see if I can put up a design that's just basically blank and just have it, or maybe I put it up and say this is Bryan Danielson's plain white shirt, but just put it all in white text and only put white shirts as an option for it. Because Bryan Danielson in 2 weeks, 3 weeks in AEW has never worn a shirt that isn't just a plain white shirt out to the ring. And I think that's funny because he's instantly got one of the most marketable names and most marketable gimmicks, American Dragon, and they didn't bother to make up a bunch of shirts for him before he came. And I think that's purposeful. I think there's a reason behind that, a booking.
Everyman's kind of guy. Yeah. That's what they're looking for.
But just for him to come out, so we can have some just plain white T-shirts on our show. Anyways, but yeah, you can go to the merch store. The link is going to be in the doobly-doos there as well. You can support us on Patreon for just a few bucks a month. Help us out that way. If you are not already following us on Facebook or YouTube, please go subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook as well. Great way to keep in touch with us and all that stuff. But YouTube, give us some more subscribers there. That's a great and free way to support us. We are back up on Google podcasts again. So if you use Google Podcasts to listen to us, you can go back to doing that or switch to whatever other podcast provider you want. I don't care. All right. Use what you want, but it just was a pain in our butts for a while for Google to not be showing us. But you can follow us on the social medias. You can follow me at Raw and Order WBU on pretty much any of the social medias, except for Facebook. You want to find us on Facebook, it's at Pissant Podcast, just like that. You can follow DA Fabe at
DA Vincent K Fabe,
right there. He's not going to tweet much, but you can follow him.
I do. I mean, I did a couple tweets this week, but it was at places. It wasn't. Wasn't my own tweet. You know, I wanted to make sure that with the resounding response we got regarding the Zelo Pro shirts that we have, I wanted to make sure people knew where they could get them for their indie shows. We have leaned an emphasis, not so much in the podcast itself, but leaned an emphasis in promoting indie shows, at least in the merch and in terms of just telling people, go. No, we can't watch every indie show. No, we can't give you recaps for every indie show. Nor would I want to, because I see it's tougher to hold a storyline when you're changing wrestlers weekly, as we talked about earlier. But boy, you want to see the best wrestling shows you're going to see. It really is seeing it live. There's an interaction that we got to experience recently. And I really want to encourage people to have the opportunity to take that opportunity in their lives to really support professional wrestling the way it started and the way that's really. Could you say you had more fun doing anything wrestling related? We enjoy the podcast. That's probably the only thing I could say I've ever had more fun doing wrestling.
The Zelo Pro show was more fun than watching Raw, which is not hard to do, but I'm going to say that just to point it out. It was more fun than being at the SmackDown show a couple years ago. Now the SmackDown show was fun, right?
Yeah.
Part of the problem with the SmackDown show, and this is something you'll run into with any WWE or AEW, tickets are expensive, and to get really good seats, they're really expensive, right? An indie show like Zelo Pro, I paid $25 and we had literally front row, right? Like right at the barricades seats, right? You can't beat that. You're right there at the action. You get to high five the wrestlers. You get to meet them before the show and after the show. You get to hear them, their smack talk to each other in the ring. It's so much more fun. It was way more fun than we would have had. Even if we would have had ringside seats to SmackDown, Zelo Pro would have been.
We would not have gotten a genuine interaction.
Yeah. Zelo Pro still was more fun than if we would have had ringside seats to SmackDown because of now there are some things to get used to with indie wrestling and all that stuff. Like we talked about, the ropes weren't the standards of setting up the ring might be a little bit looser than WWE.
Obviously not.
Apparently not. They just let anyone come and break the ring. But it was seriously more fun, and I was there from basically 4:00 until the show got over at like 10:30 or whatever, right? And I didn't feel like I'd been there for 6 hours, 6.5 hours. I just had fun. And if I'd have been at SmackDown for 6 hours, I would have felt it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'd have been like, this is grueling, right?
Well, we were
at SmackDown for 4 hours.
4.5. Yeah.
And by the end,
there was parts of it where like, ugh. So
yeah. Support indie wrestling, but even more than that, like we said before, indie wrestling is where you see the stars of the future. I don't know if we're gonna see Warhorse on AEW. We're not gonna see him on WWE. I'm sure. I don't know if we're gonna see Dan the Dad on AEW, but someone from that show will likely eventually be a regular on
AEW.
One of the major shows. AEW, Impact, Ring of Honor.
I'm going to make it very, very clear. We met Jordan Grace and Jonathan Gresham, and flat out Jordan Grace and Chelsea Green are already premier stars on different products.
Yes. Premier and they were at the indie show.
Yes.
Right.
Billy Gunn has been a premier star.
Mm-hmm.
God, yes, Bobby, but my name's Billy.
It doesn't matter what your
I'd
name
have
is.
said it to him if I didn't think he'd kick the crap out of me.
Yeah. Yeah, you get to see like Colt Cabana, who I mean, a lot of AEW stars are allowed to wrestle indies. In fact, I think it's in all of their contracts; they can still do it. So you'll get to see people like Colt Cabana, and he'll get to say things like, "Uno's a dick," and he'll agree to frog splash you for $35. I mean, maybe your price will be higher. To frog splash me, he said $35.
Yeah.
Swoggle said no.
Yeah. Not enough money in the world. Apparently, I have to give him land along with it.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
He's just got standards, I guess. I don't live up to Swoggle's high standards.
Hi. You said hi with Swoggle.
But go to your indie shows. They're so much fun and all of that stuff. But you can follow us on the social media. You can support us that way. You can follow us on the Facebook and the YouTubes to help us out that way. And then just share this with your friends, because that's a great way to help us that way. Let them know about it. And you can also rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. And this is where I normally would give the joke about 5 stars, just like Turks and Caicos. But they haven't sponsored us, and I would prefer Zello Pro to sponsor us now. So just like 5 stars, like I give Zello Pro's last pay-per-view, last event, and Thunderstruck, and then their next one, I'm already going to give it 5 stars. It's next week in Milwaukee at the ballroom, and
I want to go to that ballroom. That is a beautiful looking building.
Oh, if I had vacation time from my job and like more money
and travel money,
stuff like that, Milwaukee's not that far away from us.
No.
It's
like Chicago.
It'd be a drive, but we could make it.
Well, you could flap really hard.
Yes, flap really, really hard. I think I technically have a cousin who lives in Milwaukee.
Yeah, just random show up. Is that what you're saying?
I would just,
hey, cuz.
I would text her in advance and say, "Hey, do you got like a couch I could crash on? Do you have another couch for my friend to crash on?"
Okay, we'll share the couch.
Yeah, we'll just cuddle.
This is gonna get cozy.
But I hope they come back to Nebraska. If they do, I'm at the next show.
Yeah,
hands down.
I will support Zello Pro. I will support any indie wrestling program that decides to come to come within an hour of me.
I would love for. So far, it has not happened. But I would absolutely love if Thunderstruck would get up on Fight, but it's not currently on Fight yet.
No.
Makes me sad, Banda.
But their reviews or their recaps were on Facebook, and you can't see us in any of them. You can see the guy in the Macho Man hat, but can't see us.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the times,
we were backside to the hard cam, which we've always said we wanted to do.
Yeah, well, and I don't know how hard cam it was, but a lot of them could, like, even the ringside photographer and videographer often was standing right in front of us.
Yeah.
Right. So,
yeah, we're just at the wrong spot.
There's one of them, one video that Zello Pro did put up that you can see us in briefly, but it's just like the back of our heads. And it was a video they put up where it had Jonathan Gresham and Jordan Grace in the ring after the event. They're in the ring and they're saying goodbye to the fans, and we're all cheering, and you can see us there in the lower left-hand corner of the frame. Very briefly, but most of the time we were behind the camera. So, but it's still, I don't care if I'm on camera or not. It was great. I literally got to hang around. I got to chat with Colt Cabana. I got to chat with Warhorse and Billy Gunn, and and got to chat with Heather Reckless and some of the lower card wrestlers.
That's my fearless prediction. Actually, my fearless prediction from Zella Pros, Heather Reckless is a future.
I think she is
women's wrestler.
Mm-hmm. I think she's definitely.
I think she's a future title holder. In fact,
I think Lainey Luck is the other one from that women's division that I think definitely
that we don't already know. I mean, obviously Jordan Grace is a current.
Yeah, and I think Kayleen Keene has a very good shot at doing it as long as she keeps at it.
She's just incredibly green.
Yeah, green. She's just so fresh, but she's got a good look. And as long as she keeps at it, I think she's got a heck of a shot.
I do believe Warhorse has a future somewhere. I just don't think it's in WWE.
Yeah. I could see him in Impact. I could see him doing a good job in Impact. I want him in AEW. I'd prefer him there, but whatever. I think GPA has a legitimate.
Oh my gosh, yeah,
legitimate shot at showing up on one of the bigger ones. What was the one with
the heel tag team? SKB and
SKB and what was his name?
Well, here you got it on here. I know it's on here somewhere. It is. We got SKB over here.
Was it the
Zach Hendricks?
No, Zach Hendricks is the other guy in Country Air.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
I think it's Campbell Meyer was the other guy's name. I don't think we got the signature of the other guy. He didn't come up to sign, I don't think, afterwards. Okay. I think SKB was the only one who came up to sign, but I can't remember. I think it was called the Premier. I think that's what they called him. Let's see if he has it listed on his Facebook. Dat Boy SK on Facebook. Anyways,
for that matter, with a gimmick change, I think JJ Garrett's got a future somewhere. So, I mean, there really was lots of people I could see in 10 years being the people who are on our televisions. I really do. So, go to your local shows, go see the indie wrestling. Understand that not all of them will be. Somebody of the group we just named that we see a future for will never be on major television, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. We don't know who that is, but you also aren't going to get a chance to have the shirt signed by somebody who will be if you don't go.
Well, and here's the other side of it, right? These indies have to get supported for there to be a chance for these people to show up on them, right? Yep. SKB or Heather Reckless, if they don't continue to get booked at indies, they never get a shot at someplace else.
Yep.
Right? They need these indies to get that shot.
And I'll tell you flat out, they appreciate your $5 you pay them to sign, or nothing you paid them to sign, or whatever it may be that you paid for them to sign, far more than. And this isn't a dog on Billy and Austin, but far more than Billy or Austin did.
Yep.
The $20 we had to pay for those guys. So, because it might be their meal that day. So.
But yeah, anyway. And I mean, there were people at that wrestling event that we did not get to.
Yeah.
To get signatures of. Get to meet. Yeah, exactly. But anyways, I'm just saying, go support local wrestling, all of that stuff. Support us on here, on YouTube, and all of that stuff. But we're going to go ahead and sign off and close the book on the wrestling booking unit for this week. Join the Dark Order. Join the Dark Order. Anyways, we will see you soon. Thanks for listening.